As a kid, I grew up reading Animorphs. So, given the choice, would you rather have the ability to Animorph, or would you rather be a Lycanthrope?
So what the fuck's the difference?
I think Animorphs can do it on purpose and to fight teenage crime or something. I never read the books.
Neither did I.
I have no idea.
No.
They always felt like a really shitty after school.
But aren't Animorphs basically what we see in D&D 5e Lycanthropes? They just go into like their beast forms. But if you're in there for too long, you get stuck. Like, isn't one of them like a hawk who gets stuck?
I didn't even know that. I know nothing about Animorphs because I was born way too early for that shit.
Okay. I mean, we could roll for it, but let's be honest, both of us are going to say Lycanthropes.
No, I would rather be able to control my beast shit, right? As opposed to...
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, but if
like,
you stay in it for like longer than 15 minutes or some shit, you're stuck in it forever.
Oh, that? Oh, no, shit. Yeah, I'll wolf out. I'd be a Lycanthrope.
Yeah.
It's a Mimic, the Roundtable Dungeons & Dragons discussion podcast, where you never know what you're going to get.
Welcome to another episode in our conversation on mob mentalities, where we look at some of the furry humanoids out there that can make up the enemy armies in Dungeons & Dragons. I'm Adam, and with me today, of course, as always, for now and forever till the end of time, is Dan. And this episode is called Lycanthrope Packs, Shift Changes.
Oh, I would have, yeah, I guess that works. Yeah, that works.
That's a double.
Yeah, it is a double.
That's
yeah.
a double.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've reached out to our army of friends and allies to help us break down what Lycanthrope packs look like in 5th edition. We've covered the stats and details last episode for the Werewolf, Wererat, Wereboar, and Werebear, but now we're going to cover all the other lycanthropic entries from the published 5e material.
For sure.
But before we get into it, we talked last time about kind of the history of lycanthropes,
Yep.
and I want to get into some of the tropes that we're used to seeing in pop culture, things that people are going to expect. Your players will look for these hints. And I was surprised by how freaking many there are, because a werewolf movie is a werewolf movie,
Yeah.
right? So I'm going to go through these. And as a DM, when I sit down to run any sort of were creature, I'm going to be looking at these to either lean on the tropes. I'm going to lean on probably 75% of them, and then subvert 25%. So.
I took a quick scan through the list, and to be completely honest, some of them don't apply to to certain versions of lycanthropes as to others.
Right.
So
yeah. So this is werewolves specifically.
Yeah.
We don't have a whole lot of were lizard movies. Only Amazing Spider-Man.
I guess that's true. Hey.
Kind of. Right, but we don't have. It is always just a werewolf. So we're going to use that as a base, but your players who don't know any better, when they run into a wererat or they hear wereboar for the first time, they will be applying the werewolf tropes to this kind of animal.
Sounds good. I'm stuck on werelizards. Are they just basically UNT?
Absolutely not. The UNT...
They could be.
All right, you know what? I'm just going to keep it. God damn. So, some of the lycanthropes for the lycanthropes are, first of all, a human takes on animalistic traits when they're not in their shifted form.
Okay.
So you see that all the time, where they tend to be usually a little bit hairier, or they will sniff at the air or something.
Both of us on 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah. Or Terry at a nightclub.
Hey.
The next thing is vampires and werewolves hate each other.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
That is a weird one. I think that comes from the old Universal monster clash movies. Vampires versus werewolves, Dracula versus the Wolfman kind of thing.
Yeah.
I know traditionally it was Frankenstein's monster that was fighting everything.
Well,
King Kong.
We saw last week with Bram, I mentioned Bram Stoker, how he loved the stories of lycanthropy growing up, but he wanted to put them in his story, but he didn't want to have a separate monster entirely, so he just gave those aspects to Dracula. So, they're kind of part and parcel for the same thing. I have no idea where they've created this aggression against each other.
The old Universal movies.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's the black and white movies where the Universal monsters fight. Frankenstein's going to fight the mummy. Dracula's going to fight the Wolfman. That's how it works, right? I think Abbott and Costello were in the mix sometimes.
Somewhere, yeah.
But that is one of the tropes. Vampires and werewolves dislike each other. If you've got some sort of vampire, we've got the Ravenloft book that's coming out.
Yep.
So you're going to have vampire-ish player characters. They're going to have stronger reactions to werewolves. That's something that I would expect.
Yeah.
Also, the transformation is incredibly painful. No one does it because it's fun. Does not feel good to have all of your bones break and elongate, and to suddenly have your spine realign and your hips move forward. And Like
organs moved to different locations.
Yeah. You think about how much it hurts kids when they're teething, and now imagine that shit happening in like 30
minute.
seconds.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Someone who has transformed will have no memory of what happened, but may have torn clothes. There'll be blood nearby. They'll have muddy feet, and or a vague sense of dreams of some animalistic hunt or a fury or something. Right? So this whole idea of the amnesia, but evidence as well.
Yeah. Now, are you doing that for more...
That'll be for player characters or beloved NPCs. Someone died, but also this guy woke up in torn clothes and he doesn't know why.
Yeah.
Right?
Cool.
These are the hints that I'm going to be dropping in and around my mystery. And it's going to be pretty straightforward. I think at that point, I'm giving away who the werewolf is.
Sure. I would do it with just like hidden notes to your player that has the issue to begin with. Right? So just a communication from DM to player for a while and let the player role play this incredibly anxious, guilty, scared, unknown aspect to his character until he figures the crap out, right?
Okay, here's one. I'm used to seeing this in zombies. Like, we'll think about this for zombies, as well as people that have been bitten by a vampire but haven't changed fully yet. They haven't turned. Before the first transformation, the cursed person shows signs of fever or confusion, or conversely, they get more acute senses related to their animal.
Okay.
Think of like your teen wolf, right? Where he starts to figure it out, almost like Spider-Man, right? Where his hair sticks up the first time that he has a spider sense go off, right? This is a kind of basic trope for the players that are afflicted with lycanthropy. I'm going to say you can smell something. You roll advantage on your smell check, right? There's something in the air that comes, or you suddenly feel very flushed, or you have difficulty controlling your anger, right? There'll be these little bits and pieces that I'm going to throw out there as kind of a hint that something's coming.
Okay.
Here's one that I think everybody knows. Animal footprints slowly morph into human footprints or vice versa when you're tracking them. This is how I would let you know that, yes, it is a lycanthrope. You're not hunting a hellhound.
And I mean, this translates to shifters, to any shape changer as well. You can pull this.
Yeah.
A metallic dragon, the humanoid feet walking away from town, shifting into a gigantic lizard's foot, and then disappearing because now it's flying. Right? Like.
Yeah, and you can also think about how it could be displaced as well. Like the animal tracks go into the river or onto the road, but then turns into human footprints on the other side. The next one is that there's an immediate rampage right after the transformation. We see this with the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which we talked about last episode, and the Hulk is another one. But you know that when a person wolfs out in a movie, anyone immediately around them is in just sudden danger right in this moment.
Oh, yeah.
There is no calm or the idea of they run away and then recuperate. No, it's just sudden. Suddenly that person is just fangs and claws and fur and blood. Right?
Yeah.
They become the Tasmanian devil. The next one is the cursed party heads towards the wilderness as quickly as possible. Once that rampage is done, they head to wilderness. They don't run deeper into the town square. They tend not to go towards the crowded area. They hunt on the outskirts.
Yeah.
Even these creatures that are immune to piercing, bludgeoning, and slashing damage from non-magical silvered weapons still will not go into a town square full of commoners. They will hunt one at a time.
Well, no, you have that frame of the hunter mentality,
stalking from the shadows,
right? And like in the wild, they're going to take out the ones on the fringes first because they're an easier kill.
Yep.
Right? Like going into the middle of town, they are smart enough to know that's too much of a challenge.
Yes.
And not that they won't walk away from it without even really a scratch. It's just the food is going to kick up a fight. And that's what they're trying to avoid.
So the next one is the afflicted person devolves to a default hunt mode, which is exactly what you were talking about there.
Yep.
Right? So the idea that they are, no matter when they just ate, they are now hungry for flesh.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what kind of flesh. They will eat a chicken, they will eat a dog, they will eat a person. In Dungeons & Dragons terms, there's not a whole lot that they won't eat, although they tend not to eat other lycanthropes.
Yeah. Well, and also, they are smart enough to know that, hey, if I charge that owl bear solo, I'm not going to walk away from it.
Oh, but they will walk away because that is a
I guess that's true,
non-magical
yeah.
like, and they will know their own abilities. I don't think they're going to fuck around with undead or constructs. There's no benefit for them to do that.
Or even a dragon.
Well, they're going to be able to. Well, I mean, depending on the breath weapon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if for whatever reason the dragon can't use a breath weapon, the Lycanthrope has the advantage. All Lycanthropes have an advantage on the Tarrasque. They will beat it eventually.
I guess that's true.
So another common trope is that you can try to resist it. It doesn't always work depending on the pop culture, but everyone always tries. No, 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 and then they become the creature, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, there tends to be a clue in the character's name about their secret lycanthropy. This one drives me fucking insane.
Oh, because you always know who it is.
Yeah, it was cute when I was 12, and I was trying to put it. Oh, I know that Professor Lupin, right, is the werewolf here because I figured that out. But I'm an adult now. I'm not going to have the last name be Wolfsbane.
Yeah, this is Professor Wolfeaton.
Exactly, and you actually do see that a lot, even to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Potter is so bad for that. It's cutesy and funny and whatever, but every side character that is going to have a gimmick has a hint in their name somewhere.
Yeah.
So whereas vampires tend to be upper class, white-collared people with high incomes, werewolves tend to be lower class, blue-collar people with low incomes. Almost always. You can subvert the trope on this, and we see it sometimes, but you have vampires in penthouses and werewolves in warehouses.
Yeah.
Get it? Warehouses?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
It's when a person turns into a house. So there's a consistent kind of feel to the werewolf being a commoner level issue and not a princely level issue, right? Unless there is a killer in the royal grounds, right? And it turns out to be a werewolf.
Yeah. Honestly, I like the idea of my werewolves as royalty. But it's still like a mark of shame amongst the royalty.
Yeah.
So like they've got that wing in the palace that no one goes to during the lunar cycles.
Yeah.
And there's very specific reasons, but everyone in the family's hush hush. All of the servants are hush hush about it. And anyone that dares whisper the news amongst the commoners suddenly disappears one day.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's a common trope, but more often than not, you're going to see it be low class, or you're going to see it be high class that has fallen. Think of the Beast who lives from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Who lives in the castle by himself. It's dark and dreary, and I mean,
paintings of his former self are like scratched out.
Yeah, it's that kind of feel to werewolves. It's savage, and that's really the point that they're trying to hit over and over again. Is this unwavering savagery, including another trope: claws and teeth are ridiculously sharp. Usually, even a werewolf scratch can be enough to pass on the curse. Not in D&D. It has to be a bite.
Yeah.
So you can just get sideswiped by a claw and turn in a lot of werewolf fiction. Never sits right with me, but that is a common enough thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you get one little bite from a zombie and you will eventually become a zombie, right? And you see this all over the Dawn of the Dead series.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, most zombie fiction, right? The moment that you pass fluids, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is zombification a sexually transmitted disease?
It can be.
Please have it not be. There's some implications there that I do not want to think about. So, but yikes! Oh, you derailed me. Okay.
I saw a quote earlier that's like, "It's okay if younger people date older people, but don't dig them up." And I went, "Woof."
Yikes!
Woof.
It's a whole new way of getting boned. So let's move right along to
yes, please.
Yeah. It is very, very common for this scratch to be the thing that transmits it. Keep in mind that most of these lycanthropes have a claw attack of some sort, right? And your players may assume that they are going to be afflicted by this. I would have them roll constitutions. If that's their assumption, make them roll anyway. And even if they roll a 3, nothing happened. And then watch them all get confused. Well, he got bitten, but the 3 of us got scratched. And oh my God, we're all going to turn. Only the one that got bitten turns. See who can figure it out.
Yeah.
There's an irresistible bloodlust, hunger, or rage. Always. When you are in beast form, even when you are in human form, you want the smell of raw meat smells good, right? You are very quick to get angry. There are these kind of, like I said before, savage, but like primal urges that people have, and this brutality, this almost cruelty to you.
There is a natural drive to be fierce when you shift into being a werewolf.
Yeah, but it doesn't even have to be a werewolf, right?
Or lycanthrope.
No, but when you think about like a were-rat, what drives them?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're going to want to stay in the shadows a little bit more. They're not necessarily going to be full of rage, but they'll be suspicious all of the time. You will get to watch the paranoia come up. Think about exactly what these stereotypes for these animals looks like. Well, what do you think of when you think about bears? They sleep a lot. They enjoy sweet things and honey. They've got a taste for fish, right? They want to be left alone. They lumber. He doesn't walk anymore. He lumbers.
About their family.
Yeah. So you think about boars, like wild pigs and whatnot. I'd give them an additional amount of hunger. They're constantly trying to eat all of the time. They don't mind being dirty at all. There's a smell that comes off them because they don't bathe. Right? These little things that you can start to put in here that just comes naturally with how their attitude shifts. Another one that I like is that the afflicted party disappears for a few days every month. When I'm building my mystery, I'm going to have a lot of people in this town come and go at different times of the month, and just to like really fuck with people.
It's kind of like Orthodox Judaism, just different.
I don't know what that means.
Menzies, Adam. They would take all the women folk on their couple days a month and put them in a hut outside of town until they were done, and then they could come back. Horrible practice.
Yikes.
Yeah, because they were unclean while they bled.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Good Lord. That's not okay.
It's not okay. No. But, I mean, use that for inspiration with your werewolf folk who just go out to a hut in the outside of the outskirts of town until they're done.
Yeah, or even just get chained up in the dungeon.
Yeah.
Right? Or like they're in a basement somewhere behind some sort of steel door that they can't get out. Right? And so as you're looking for whatever killed it, you're expecting to run into an animal, whatever has been killing all the cattle and whatnot. But then you get down, there's been noises coming from the basement or the cellar. You get down there and you find a steel door that's rattling against its frame and whatnot, and they open it up, expecting to see some sort of standard
wild
monster.
beast.
Yeah. And it's just a guy cowering, smeared in his own shit, going, oh God, I don't want to do it anymore, right? Like, you can really play with this level of horror.
What was the show? Being Human? Was that... It's a show with like a vampire and a ghost and a werewolf living together in London. It's just coming to me now, but it's such a great show because it stars the guy who voiced Darth Maul in, I think, the North American version.
Of what?
In Clone Wars.
Oh, okay.
Like that actor.
Because that guy had a voice, but they didn't have lines. He had like 2 words that he spoke in Phantom Menace. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
No, not Ray Park, a different guy. But he, this show is actually fantastic. I'm pretty sure it's called Being Human, and it's about these 3 supernatural beings trying to exist in the modern world, right? And the guy who plays a werewolf is like an unassuming little nerd character, who just gets like hungry and horny and all these things right around the lunar cycle. And his vampire friend has to chain him up in like their attic to get through it.
And that's another one of the tropes that I haven't really touched on yet, is the idea that you tend to go small to big. Think about it this way. Halflings struck by lycanthropy, do they become medium-sized?
100%.
I like them all turning like the small end of large-sized creatures. I want all lycanthropes to be big, big, big. Like maybe not were-rats, but... Yeah. But I really like that. I think that's a lot of fun. So the idea that you're...
just a bunch of gnome-were bears turning into basically Care Bears running around.
No, the opposite of that.
the opposite of that.
Fuck, God. You are just swinging wild today.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with you. Okay. So the afflicted party will give a weapon designed to kill them to a trusted friend or loved one, just in case.
Mm-hmm.
We see that all the time. I mean, hell, even Gamora was begging for that in Infinity War, right? If he gets me, shoot me. That is a common one, but I think that when you've got a beloved NPC and they're trying to cure and whatnot, and the NPC disappears, and then it comes back with a silvered +1 sword that says, here, just in case. That can be a dramatic moment around your table.
I also like the fact when they initially meet the guy and they follow him around, he goes, a gift for you, and just hands the party all silver daggers.
The problem is none of them are magical, so you're all going to die.
Well, +1
No, I
daggers,
know.
right? Like, gives the mage one, gives the rogue one, who's like, sweet, this is an upgrade, but gives the fighter one, who kind of looks at it with disdain. And he doesn't say why. He's just like, we're now a party, these are a gift to you.
See, I really like that. We have these lycanthropes that have, a moderate amount of hit points for their CR level, right? However, with everybody rolling D10s and D12s and whatnot on their attacks, it's fun to say, no, everybody's got to roll D4s. This is still going to be a long, drawn-out battle. So here's another one for you. Occasionally, immortality or increased longevity is part of the curse, even though the human form still looks incredibly young and virile. They look healthy and they look young. They don't age. It's another blurring of the rules with vampirism.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like this, but it might be a good way to throw off the scent. Because there are so many different kinds of lifespans for all of these different creatures in 5th ed.
Yeah.
So you'd be able to tell, oh, they don't age. They look exactly the same. And so a human that looks the same 60 years later, that's a lycanthrope. But an elf, that means nothing. That doesn't help.
I like that. I would also have, and you're right, I'm kind of shooting wildly here, but I would also like to see if they are resisting the urge and getting chained up, they then age faster. They age slower if they actually go through with the urges and fulfill them. They age faster if they resist it, just because that stress, that resistance is going to put that much of a strain on their bodies, and that's the way of the curse. So you could resist it and you will die sooner, or you could give in and you'll die forever. Or, sorry, you'll live forever.
You'll die forever. That's got to be one of the Die Hard sequels.
That's got to be.
So,
or maybe, James Bond.
I was going to say maybe James Bond movie. Werewolves die forever. There's an alpha of the pack, usually the beginner of the bloodline. So the first person to get cursed that starts turning all the others, usually that is considered the alpha. They're the leader of the pack, and everybody has to listen to that. I've also seen where that werewolf, that alpha, that beginner, that sire, I guess, disappears. And so there's no way to find out who that person is. Mm-hmm. So there's a bunch of werewolves around, but we don't know where it started.
There is a Supernatural, like a couple episodes.
Yeah, they have alphas in that. I do not want to talk about Supernatural. The other thing about this alpha as well is sometimes if you kill the alpha, everyone down the bloodline will suddenly be cured. I've seen that before. I'm not wild about that. That's really kind of that hive mind mothership.
But that to me is also a blurring of the lines with vampirism. And that is, I believe, part of the rule set for the Vampire the Masquerade tabletop RPG.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. If you take care of the sire, it kills everyone down the line.
Oh, no, it doesn't kill. It cures when it comes to werewolves, right? I don't like that. That feels Independence Day to me. That feels like the Chitauri from...
Yeah,
we've seen that a lot recently.
Take the head off the snake and see what happens.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Lycanthropes return to their true form if they die.
Yep. So
you can go ahead and kill it, and then it reveals, oh, it was Farmer Joe all along. This is a difference between lycanthropes and UNT, which you were talking about before. They could polymorph into snakes, but if they die, they stay a snake. Mm-hmm. That these two things can really throw people off. If you were to have a lycanthrope, a werewolf, or a wereboar mystery, and then you follow it up with UNT, they'll be looking for a weresnake, but no such thing exists, right? A loved one is afflicted with the curse. That's
every time.
Every time. It's the same thing. You do not have zombie fiction without, a pair of siblings or a romantically, engaged couple.
Or best friends or something.
Yeah, or, me and my dad or whatever it is. One of the two of them is doomed.
Yeah.
Maybe both. Monster hunters tend to hate and kill the monster regardless of their deeds, intentions, or alignment. A werebear is still a bad guy. He's still a monster. We got to kill him. Even though they're neutral good.
I'm not a big fan of the scorched earth mentality, but as an NPC, they're allowed to be a little bit more 2D. If you're
it fits for some paladins and rangers too.
I guess that's true, but at the same time, have some character depth, be able to flex on that a bit.
Actually, I could make a case for barbarians, some rogues,
a couple fighters.
Yeah, there's enough of that out there.
Anything with a martial tint.
Yeah.
I don't see a wizard having this hard line in the sand.
No, a druid definitely won't.
Oh, 100% won't.
But a cleric might.
Well, I mean, yeah.
So it's something to think about too. When you are planning this, maybe throw in a dilemma like that. See what your party does.
You know how there's the Raven Queen and she hates undead with a fiery passion as they are an affront to the life and the life cycle. Would Saloon, who is the god of night and twilight in the Forgotten Realms, would she have this same kind of hatred against lycanthropes, or would she embrace them?
I don't know enough about the Elven Pantheon, honestly, to, like, I know the broad strokes by 4 or 5 sentences.
Well, think
but I
of
don't
just
know
like a general moon god, like lunar god. Would they embrace or reject lycanthropes?
I think that they would probably embrace them to a certain degree. I mean, you're blessed by my power.
Okay, yeah.
Right? They're not going to say you're cursed by my power. I would say that your naturalists, your nature gods, may have more of an issue with it, because these are magical curses afflicting the natural order of things.
I really like the idea of the werewolf lycanthrope curse being that being gifted from the moon god or the god of the lunar sphere, right?
Okay, so let's actually talk about moon stuff then. You
Sure.
want to go down that road? Let's jump into it, because I got a lot to say about lunar cycles and whatnot. Another trope is that the lycanthrope is tempted to turn at night, during dusk, at nightfall when it happens. Right? We get to see that when the full moon is out, they turn. During the day, nothing happens. That is something that does not apply in D&D, but your players may be expecting that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The next thing is that a full moon triggers a transformation, obviously.
Yeah.
And yet, clouds, shadows, or a roof may be enough to keep the curse at bay. You've seen it a few times where they're sitting there in wolf form, and then they're standing in the window, and a cloud passes in front of the moon, and they become a human long enough to apologize or say, run! They gain enough control, and then the cloud moves again, and they're back to their wolf form.
Mm-hmm.
You can play with that. In D&D, that could be an interesting moment, especially to break up battle a little bit, to cast a little bit of confusion on should we kill and should we even fight this creature?
Okay.
Especially if they're an ally.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, I want to talk about lunar cycles for a second, okay? Because I did a little bit of research into this, because there's a piece of lore that always drives me nuts. And that is that the full moon lasts for 3 nights.
Okay.
First and foremost, the lunar cycle takes 29 and a half days.
Routinely on. Yeah, okay.
All right, that is how long it takes. I mean, it's
on Earth, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit more than that, but by like a fraction, but so it's not perfect, but it's shifting all of the time.
If you're doing some world building, figure this out for your world.
Yeah. So a full moon it only lasts in reality for an instant. Okay? It is when the sun, earth, and moon line up perfectly so that the moon can get 100% of the amount of sunlight and reflect it onto the earth. That happens for the briefest moment. Our eyes cannot determine what that actually is like, and the way that tides are affected, and the way that animals may or may not be affected, and whatnot. It only it ebbs and flows. But there's a moment, a transitionary moment, where there's the true full moon. It can even happen during the day, because remember, it's 29 and a half days. Right? So this may technically happen at 2 in the afternoon, and you will never see it, because it's happening on the other side of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
The full moon, if the full moon is only 99% illuminated, it isn't technically a full moon. But for werewolf purposes, we tend to treat it that way. Okay, so I discovered that there is a actual phrase for the beginning and end of it. So there's just before the full moon, its phase is called waxing gibbous.
Okay.
I actually had to look that up and how to pronounce that. Everything that I found from a dictionary, from a Cambridge Dictionary, Oxford Dictionary, and dictionary.com, pronounced it gibbous. Every YouTube video I found with an expert said gibbous, which I really didn't like. I just absolutely hate it.
Yeah, it's like GIF or GIF.
Yeah, yeah. So, but that is before the full moon. It is a waxing gibbous. Immediately after the full moon occurs, it's called a waning gibbous.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, waxing and waning,
yeah.
Sure. But there's the idea that there's a single point where just for an instant, everything is in perfect balance, and then it shifts again, right? Traditionally speaking, werewolf and lycanthropes, they tend to have a 3-day window.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a specific reason for this, but it took me a while to figure out what it is. And I started looking at the fact that this is actually a narrative thing and not based on science. I wanted to dig into science quite a bit and see what I could find about the idea of lunar cycles and shifting personalities and whatnot. And I discovered that it's really just a narrative storyline because on night 1, there was a horrible, ghastly murder, so that the next day you can get your investigator to come in. Night 2, they tend to get the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
And then that person will die, or they will get a clue that will lead them to the right person, so that the following day they can lay their trap. And then night 3 is when you have this big fight.
Yeah.
If it's only one night a month that it happens, you have to wait 28 and a half days to do it again, right?
Yeah.
So that's the reason that it comes in 3s. I really encourage dungeon masters to lean into that to give a window, right? Otherwise, you've got a whole lot of just downtime narrative bullshit to go. Or they will have forgotten the necessity and the immediacy by the time it comes back around again, when you've done 7 side quests and a whole bunch of random encounters and shit.
Yeah, we missed the werewolf this month. I guess we're waiting a month, and then we'll get to him next time.
Yeah, so if you're going to do the Lunar Cycle, instead of just the standard you change when you want or any of that stuff, if you're going to stick with the Lunar Cycle, make it 3 days. Now, as you said before, Dan, you can have different rules for different moons, different cycles, depending on your homebrew world. There's probably somewhere written in the 3.5 books the idea of how long a month is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, our months don't tend to line up with our lunar cycles, but I think you can just make an educated average guess based on how long a month is in the Forgotten Realms, if you can find a proper calendar.
Sure.
This gets really confusing when it comes to the idea of multiple moons. If there are 3 moons in the sky, some are bigger than others, and if they all line up at the same time, and like you could have like super wolves and shit going.
You could have the lycanthroping harvest, or the lycanthropy harvest, which is where all 3 moons just like phase one after the other, and instead of the usual 3 nights here or there,
it's 9 in a row.
It's 9 in a row, and just things go nuts. And if it's highly contagious, like we've already established with the bite, and if you want to put it in the clause as well, cool. Then you just have like a 9-day plague of lycanthropy that your world has to go through. That's badass. I love that.
Yeah, or I just like the idea that all 3 line up for these 3 days, and so like not even elemental is psychic damage only, or magic weapons or something like that. You need specific moonbeam spells or whatnot, right? So.
Super moons start super werewolves? Is that what we're trying to say?
Well, like kind of. Would you become a huge size werewolf if all 3 moons line up and you just become a slavering Hulk?
I mean, the rules don't support it, but yeah,
I think that's pretty cool, right? So the idea is when you're making your world, when you come up with your calendar and whatnot, you can do some fun things. But let me remind you, we've spoken about building calendars in the past. It does not pay off. Speaking from experience, building a calendar for your world can be a lot of fun. You get to name the different days, different things, and you get different seasonal rotations. And I mean, the best example of this is George R.R. Martin with the seasons that are all out of whack, right? Yeah. But your players won't care. And if they do, they will track it, but then they will get off track, and there will be differences in the calendar and note taking, and things will get confusing.
You'll have one session where everybody's a bit murder horrible-y, and we'll try to have that long rest a bit early because they blew through all their spells way too early, and now what time of the day is it again?
Yeah, you're tracking almost by the hour sometimes.
Yeah.
It took you 2.5 days to get here. Okay, hold on. What's the date then? Right? You're going to lose your immersive aspect of your world because people are busy doing accounting. Mm-hmm. I like having a unique calendar for my fiction, and I can work it into the world then. I'm not sure I would do it moving forward again in the future, building a homebrew world.
It really depends on how long you intend the campaign to go. If the campaign is years spanning, you definitely want to have a calendar built, or at least sometime near the beginning couple months.
Yeah, but a DM can track that stuff, so they can ask, how long has it been? Or the DM just knows, okay, you guys know the rainy season is coming.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas tracking days can be cumbersome.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get into the effects of what the full moon actually does to real people.
Okay.
Because this has to come from somewhere. Why do we, in our Western society, have this common creature? We don't have many compared to other cultures.
No.
We've got vampires and werewolves and like Loch Ness Monster, released a Kraken. We've got fairies.
There are some fairy analogs. Yeah,
like there's the
dragon analogs,
but we don't have a whole lot of demons and ghosts and ghouls and things like a lot of other. Like we have some, but it tends to be religion based.
Yeah,
for the demons and the devils and stuff, as opposed to Japanese culture where demons are just another kind of monster.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there are all sorts of different ways to look at these different origins of these creatures, and you went into quite a bit of detail last episode about it, right? But I wanted to dig into why we feel this way. So I found out that most astrological teachings link the full moon to a time of heightened emotional states. Now, I don't really believe in astrology, but that is a common thing through the ages that people would look to the stars for guidance. From my digging, this mentality has been around for a lot longer than zodiac columns in newspapers or any of this. Like it goes way, way, way back. I tried to set aside the complicated relationships that some native, tribal, and aboriginal peoples have with the moon because that doesn't really affect our version of werewolves.
Sure.
And I also tried to set aside the idea of Incan and Mayan worshippers of the moon. Because I wanted to dig into why the Western world creates the myth of the werewolf and the full moon. Where's the science behind the link? So I did find a BBC article, and it says, for centuries, people have believed that the moon affects human behavior. The word lunacy derives from the Latin lunaticus, meaning moonstruck, and both the Greek philosopher Aristotle and the Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder believed that madness and epilepsy were caused by the moon.
Yep.
Pregnant women are also rumored to be more likely to give birth on a full moon, but any scientific evidence for this, gleaned by looking back over birth records during different lunar phases, is inconsistent. So too is evidence that the lunar cycle increases violence among psychiatric patients or prison inmates, although one recent study suggested that outdoor criminal activity, which is incidents occurring on streets or in natural settings like beaches, may be higher when there's more moonlight.
That's cool. Okay.
In reality, the famous full moon crazies might have more to do with the fact that the average person seems to take longer to fall asleep due to light pollution, and therefore there's more general crankiness. Additionally, people tend to think they are more active during a full moon because if you can see it, then it, A, is memorable, B, is easier to maneuver throughout the world, and C, has good enough weather to see the moon and therefore be outside.
Yeah.
So therefore you remember and you will move more often then. Many pet owners will also tell you that the full moon affects their pets' behaviors. Dogs, like their wolf ancestors, are known to howl at the moon when it's full. Cats, on the other hand, tend to hide. Birds become agitated, sometimes even disoriented.
Huh.
That has to do with the magnetic pull. That's what scientists believe, but are unable to prove. What's interesting is that as a result of all of these different ideas, vets tend to have a whole lot more activity going on during the full moon.
Okay.
However, none of these behaviors have ever been scientifically proven to be caused directly by the cycles of the moon.
Weird. It's more of a correlation thing.
It's not a causation.
Yeah.
Not definitively. So, so then I started looking into the idea of low light vision. Because, of course, I was.
Yeah.
My own personal research into dark vision and low light vision and whatnot kind of coincided with this. So I went off on a fucking tangent here. So here we go, okay? Low light vision in D&D is when you have dim light scenarios, right?
Yes, yeah.
So, you have the 20 feet cast by the torch and then 20 feet beyond it is low light. Improved eyesight is actually one of the many adaptations that nocturnal animals have to help them cope with low light conditions. Many nocturnal animals have a reflective surface called a tapetum lucidum. This is the thing behind the retinas that allows their eyes to take in more light. It gives them 2 to 6 times better efficiency in low light. And I would actually give anybody that has this advantage on perception rolls relying on sight in low light conditions. I'd keep the DC high, but I'd give you advantage on it.
Which would cancel out the disadvantage you'd get with dark vision in dim light areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, I also found out that, also in my research, I found a quote that I really liked. Professor Jeff Boxall, who is a biologist and merit researcher at the Natural History Museum in London, said it's about enhancing their vision as much as possible. They sort of use light twice. The photons go in through the retina, are reflected by a mirror layer behind the eyes, and then they go back out through the retina. And you know who has this because those are the creatures whose eyes glow at night. If I shine a flashlight at you walking through the distance in the darkness, right? Your eyes will not glow, but a wolf's will.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to research what animals have eyes that glow. Because I'm thinking, when I'm saying, oh, you run into the werewolf at night, obviously, you should be able to see their eyes glowing in the darkness from the torchlight.
Sure.
Before you ever can see what it is. So in theory, you see the eyes that are about 2 feet off the ground, and then they stand up until they're 7 feet off the ground. Like, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially when you get were-rats who have, like, there's a dozen of them. It's just suddenly, you know, you like
and they go from 2 feet off the ground to 2.5 feet off the ground.
Yeah, right. But I was curious. And did you know that they all come in different colors? Which can also give you more flavor as well. Werewolves are based on wolves, obviously. Wolves have green eyes in the dark.
Okay. Like they reflect a green hue.
Yeah, it's all on the green spectrum depending on the breed of wolf. Were-rats have green or red.
Okay.
And sometimes it kind of blurs the two together strangely, like a weird reflective kind of color.
Pearlescent almost?
Yeah, but it really does.
Or opalescent? Would that be opalescent? I think that would be opalescent.
I knew what you meant. You just make up words and I keep going. These days, I don't even pay attention anymore. I like the idea of them having red eyes because they're the only ones on my list that do.
Yep, okay.
Were-boars don't have the ability to do this.
It's because pigs don't have the ability to do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
But were-bears do. Theirs are yellow. Bear eyes glow yellow in the dark when they have a little bit of light to reflect. I thought that was really neat.
That is really neat, yeah.
Now, as we go on for the rest of this episode, we've got, 5 more different kinds of creatures to cover? So, you guys know the drill at this point. We're going to go check in with Nick first to see what insights that he's going to have about the only lycanthrope that we didn't cover last episode that's from the PHB. But I'm also going to point out what color their eyes are if you want to use these. Because it's really different and a lot of fun. So let's jump over to Nick.
Hey guys, this time I want to tell you a story that happened to me not long ago. I met a traveler in a lonely, moonlit inn one night. His colorful clothing and exotic accent had the entire common room enraptured in his tales. He spoke of his native land, a place called Puram, full of mountains, jungles, and powerful sorcery. A place where the ruling classes were all powerful wizards who kept the land safe and prosperous. He spoke much of his benevolent king, a man named Sidhu, who he praised to the skies. His tales of the king's power were so grand, I do not believe he could have been speaking of the same person. I was entranced by his stories, just as everyone else in the bar was. As he spoke, I observed a handful of unsavory highwaymen sitting nearby, who were more interested in the man's heavy gold rings and jewelry. They sat there quietly, sizing up the man's worth and comparing it to their own lowly station in life. The traveler continued on, growing more and more animated in his tales of King Sidhu and his mighty feats. The traveler also seemed oblivious to the highwaymen as he spun his tales. I watched as the men slowly drew small knives from their pockets. I considered warning him, or standing up to the criminals, but I felt paralyzed as I watched. The storyteller abruptly excused himself to tend to the needs of the body, and stepped from the inn into the night air. The bandits followed a moment later. Torn between guilt and fear, I reluctantly rose to pursue them, hoping maybe to shout a warning before they struck. As I stepped to the inn's door, a blood-curdling scream from outside pierced my ears. No, not a scream, but more of a roar. I hesitated at the threshold, looking out into the moonlight. There the bandits stood in a ring, and at the center was no more the jovial storyteller from a moment past, but instead a ferocious tiger man. The half-man, half-beast creature pounced upon the robbers, rending them apart with tooth and claw. I tell you no lies when I say the corpses of the highwaymen were little more than a pile of bloody offal when the tiger man finished his bloody work. The creature didn't even pause. Turning from the pile of bodies, it looked right at me with its proud yellow eyes. Its grisly business complete, a sense of calm seemed to wash over the creature, and I witnessed the man-beast's form painfully twist and contort. Once again, there stood the storyteller. The man frowned at his now blood-stained silks and offered many heartfelt apologies for the disturbance he had caused. In the morning, the man paid for his room and departed as quickly as he had come. The townspeople, having later discovered the bodies of the highwaymen, attributed the carnage to some monstrous beast, and were thankful this evil had passed them by. I kept silent about the truth of the matter. After all, it was easier to believe an animal had done the deeds. In point of fact, the man had been a Weretiger, a proud and noble creature of regal bearing, tall and lithe, yet powerfully built. They take great pride in their personal appearance. Being able to shift appearance from man to beast, and also a hybrid form, they prefer to wage combat in their more civilized upright postures. Solitary hunters, they tend to shun large population centers, preferring to travel in packs of small families. They are also reluctant to pass on their lycanthropy in order to avoid competition from others. The typical Weretiger is a medium humanoid with both the human and shape-changer subtypes. As an action, it can transform between its humanoid form, its tiger form, or its tiger-humanoid hybrid form, although it keeps the same statistics in every form, excepting its size. Because any equipment that the Weretiger might be carrying does not transform with it, they tend to eschew wearing armor, giving them a meager 12 armor class. They more than make up with this, though, with a whopping 16 d8 plus 48 hit points, which is exceptional for a challenge rating 4 creature. Their base speed is comparable to a man 30 feet around, unless in their tiger form, when it increases to 40 feet. Weretigers are exceptionally powerful creatures, being both strong and sturdy, and surprisingly dexterous as well. Their mental stats are more in line with a typical human, excepting their wisdom, which is slightly higher. Consummate hunters, Weretigers are both stealthy and highly perceptive, taking advantage on perception checks relying on smell or hearing. In addition, they have 60 feet of dark vision, a deadly combination. They have little to fear either, being immune to all damage from slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning sources, unless they happen to be silvered or magical. While in their hybrid forms, Weretigers can take advantage of their powerful Pounce Maneuver. After a successful claw attack following a 15-foot direct charge, the unfortunate victim must make a DC 14 strength saving throw, or else be knocked prone. Anyone knocked down by this maneuver must also suffer an additional bite attack from the Weretiger. While in its humanoid, or hybrid form, the Weretiger tends to favor the scimitar, or the longbow. The stats are the same in either form. With the scimitar, they have a +5 to hit, dealing 1d6 plus 3 slashing damage. With the longbow, +4 to hit, and 1d8 plus 2 piercing damage. While in their tiger, or hybrid form, they can attack with fang and claw. Their claw attack has a +5 to hit, dealing 1d8 plus 3 slashing damage, and their bite attack, also +5 to hit, dealing 1d10 plus 3 piercing damage. Only their bite attack has the potential to pass along the lycanthropy curse, causing the subject to make a DC 13 Constitution saving throw, or risk receiving it. Weretigers can stand in for any large cat lycanthropes, like for example werelions, werepanthers, or the Werejaguar, as published in the Tome of Annihilation. All of these creatures have identical stat blocks, with only cosmetic differences between them. Weretigers have mannerisms similar to those of actual tigers, and may sometimes be found traveling in the company of them. Tigers are large CR1 beasts, having an armor class of 12 and 5d10 plus 10 hit points. They have a base movement speed of 40 feet around. Tigers are exceptionally strong, being both hardy and agile. However, they have only beast-level intelligence, but above-average awareness. Like the Weretiger, tigers have above-average stealth and are exceptionally perceptive, having 60 feet of dark vision and advantage on their perception checks related to smell. Also like the Weretiger, tigers have the Pounce ability, forcing their opponents to make a DC 13 strength saving throw after receiving a successful claw attack following a 20-foot straight charge. A successful knockdown allows the tiger to make a bite attack as a bonus action. Tigers also attack with tooth and nail, their bite attacks having a +5 to hit and dealing 1d10 plus 3 piercing damage, their claw attacks also having a +5 to hit, dealing 1d8 plus 3 slashing damage. Based on their statistics, you might expect Weretigers and tigers to be ambush predators, but personally, I don't think that's necessarily the case. Weretigers are described as being haughty, which would make me think that their ego and high opinions of themselves would prohibit them from using cowardly stealth attacks whenever possible. I imagine they would first approach their prey on equal terms, resorting only to hit-and-run tactics if they realize they've been outmatched. Anyways, that's all I've got to say on this topic. Hope you enjoyed my story. I'll pass it back to you guys in the studio.
Okay, so as we're going in here, right off the top, we need to understand the damage immunities that we've been talking about for the past couple episodes here. Just having a magic weapon and just having a silver weapon won't do it. You need to have both. It needs to be a magical silvered weapon.
Right.
To get through this damage immunity. It's not even a resistance. It's immunity. They
Yes.
will laugh off your +1 longsword.
Yeah. So I think it's fair to say that of all the true lycanthropes that we find in the player's handbook, it's fair to say that the Weretigers are the most likely to be solitary.
Sure. Okay.
Do you think that they have the same aversion to turning others that a werebear does?
Yes, but for different reasons.
Yeah, and the werebear is trying not to pass the curse on, but the weretiger like legit doesn't want companionship.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, do you care at all that the Weretiger stats are used for all large cat lycanthropes?
Yeah, that pisses me off a bit. I think,
if you have a Werelion or a Werejaguar or...
Yeah, well, it's like Nick said, the Jaguar exists. The Werejaguar exists. It just uses the Weretiger stats.
Yeah.
That drives me a little crazy. There should be a difference between a Werelynx and a Werelion.
Mm-hmm. Werecougar and... Well, the cougars that walk out at night are a different thing.
Okay, moving right along. So we talked at length last episode about which lycanthropes would want to surround themselves with their animal counterparts. But I want to ask, do you think that animals would tolerate a lycanthrope?
This is going to harken back to the discussion we had earlier this episode about whether or not the curse is an affront to the moon or to nature or whatever it is. Like we mentioned, the deific level of involvement with this. Honestly, yeah. I'd say they'd view them as one of the pack if they're in their up to their hybrid form.
I think
right?
I think it depends on which one, like what it is. I think that rats would sniff out the fact that that's not a rat, move on. Or I will investigate you, but I'm not going to make you part of my warren. Whereas they're going to make a werewolf the alpha of the pack.
I mean, yeah, I'd say, and even outside of the transformation cycle, a werewolf will have an affinity for dogs. Like, they'll just be good with dogs, right? A Weretiger in this regard, partners up with his buddy and has a show in Vegas, right?
Well, see, this is the one thing that I think the tigers, because they're solitary in the first place.
Yes, I was literally making a joke about Sigmund and Freud, but...
Yeah, your Freudian jokes are a little bit bad, Dan, and it concern the rest of us quite a bit.
I know, it's pretty awesome. Tickles me.
Yep.
So that aside, it says in the Monster Manual that a player character, like we did last week, we're going to talk about this now, that if you are a player character with the tiger lycanthropy form, you're going to bump your strength to 17, even if it isn't that high already. You also get that +1 to AC in tiger or hybrid form. This tracks with what we saw with everything else. All of their attacks are strength-based. For their natural weapons, instead of like dex-based, which we saw with Wererats.
Yeah, it's a damage too, right?
Yeah. And note, like the others, that this boost to strength is in all forms. It doesn't specify which form it goes to.
Yeah.
Right? So, even in your mundane human form, you're going to be a little bit beefier. Tigerier? No, that doesn't work. Anyways, if a character embraces their lycanthropy, however, they don't become evil. They don't become good. If you embrace your tiger lycanthropy, you become neutral. And of course, they include the mechanic for the pouncing DC here, which is 8 plus proficiency modifier, plus, of course, your strength modifier.
Okay, that makes sense. I do like that there's a proficiency modifier in there as well, so that as you go, you will become more dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
So I was thinking about weretigers, and specifically I started looking them up. It's really hard to find out what color tiger eyes glow, because most of the tigers that are photographed, I end up having to go to Google Images, and most of them are in black and white because it's night vision stuff.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, oh, they glow white. Listen, motherfuckers. So I did find out that large cats, though, can be anything from reddish yellow to bluish green.
Oh, they cover this. They covered the whole gamut.
Everything except purple.
Yeah, okay.
All right. But specifically Werejaguars are orange. They have orange eyes in low light.
Yeah, I'd be okay. I mean, we already said that we don't like the fact that all large cats kind of follow this, but I'd be okay with them all being orange, unless if they're like a snow leopard level of large cat, right? Like,
Yeah.
kind of match it to the flavor. I'd make a snow leopard maybe glow blue,
Sure.
right?
All right, let's grab our dice.
Sure.
And finally roll. I want to talk a little bit about Weretigers and where they fit in the mob discussion.
Sure. Got a 4.
I got a 7.
I haven't rolled first on any of these Lycanthropy episodes.
That makes me happy. So, for Weretigers, the social structure for a Weretiger, I mean, it's very clear. They don't mix well with
They're
others.
solitary.
They are, and they're not just solitary from, like, they're not isolated from simply the community. They're isolated from each other.
Mm-hmm.
You find one at a time. But do you have any ideas of like an encounter maybe or whatnot? See, in my head, an encounter with a Weretiger is going to be you are in their territory and you are passing through and they have information for you, or they may approach you to trade. They don't get a lot of visitors here. I require more arrows.
I mean, yeah, I'm okay with that. I'd want to.
In my head, they're super rangers.
I'm with you on that one. I have a problem with the fact that we have Weretigers and Rakshasa, which Rakshasa are completely different, but are basically humanoid tigers on the surface level, and they tend to be highly charismatic. They tend to be, they're devils and they're manipulators.
They're a little backhanded,
right? Rough. Come on, because their hands go the other way. Anyways,
yeah.
So I would want to distance Weretigers drastically from the flavor you find with Rakshasa. So where Rakshasas are charming and manipulative, a Weretiger, no man, I like this idea of them being super rangers. They live in the woods, they hide in the woods, they exist in the woods. You don't mess with them. That's their hunting field, and nothing else greater than them can live in that area.
Yeah, I also want to make sure that they're different from Leonin and Tabaxi as well. Right, so you have to find a really unique niche for these guys to sit in, so they're not just accidentally assumed to be, or have them show up there and have everybody else go, "Oh, wait a minute, is this a Tabaxi? Oh, a large feline man walks out and talks to you for a minute," and you find out 3 sessions later it was a Weretiger.
If you have a Tabaxi or a Leonin in your party, Leonin from Theros, for those who don't know, because it's fairly new, I love the idea of like the Weretiger in like a feral rage or something, tearing something up, and the one Tabaxi in the party going, "Hey, dude, chill. You're giving the rest of us a bad name."
Well, I also like the idea of them sniffing each other out and being like, "Oh, you're different.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's not right," and kind of sizing each other up a little bit.
Yeah.
I expect that the two of them will either avoid each other completely or have a private conversation around a campfire and everyone else has gone to bed.
Just as an aside, there is a Rakshasa in the town murdering people, but there is a member of the community that people know who is a Weretiger. The Rakshasa is framing that Weretiger for all the murders, but your tiger-themed Tabaxi is part of the party is coming to town. And now there's a whole lot of confusion. And pretty much the entire time, the Rakshasa is just sitting there going, "Excellent," with his backward hands.
You guys can't see. Dan is trying to do the like finger pyramid, the evil Mr. Burns. Excellent.
But backwards.
But backwards hands. It's very odd. Do you have any ideas? Okay, so I guess that I was going to ask, do you have any plot hooks?
That's it. Yeah,
that's
there it is.
it.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of them offering to be a guide through the area for supplies.
Yeah, and I would flavor them for like jungles and stuff. If you have the Indian feel, like the Asian Indian feel. Of things, right? Like the jungles of India, Tarzan level stuff, Jungle Book level stuff. That's where I'd have like a bright orange Bengal style tiger.
I also like the snow leopard, like the snow tiger, the Siberian tiger.
Yep.
Who's white, going through the Arctic and the tundra and whatnot as well.
Yeah.
Anyways, before we go any further, let's jump over to a quick little word about another project that we'd like to do. Did you hit record?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, as some of you have noticed, obviously, Dan and I launched a bit of an informal side project where we go through one of the Dungeons & Dragons publications at a time and determine the pros and cons and our overall thoughts. And the first one we did was Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden.
We went over almost every page, covering moderate spoilers for the adventure without giving the ending away. We covered things that interest players or may be useful to dungeon masters to get inspiration from.
I always love going through the monsters and the items and the player options.
I really enjoyed seeing all the different forms of the Frost Maiden and investigating everything about her frosty lair to her maiden head.
Dan? What the fuck, man? I need you to take these commercials way more seriously. I show up every time with the utmost professional attitude.
Ah!
What?
You? Professional?
Yes.
Professional what? Dick?
At least I'm not an amateur dick.
I don't... What?
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 What is your problem?
What's an amateur dick?
Well, I don't know. Obviously, by definition, it's a dick that doesn't get paid.
Does your dick normally get paid?
I mean, it should.
Well, I'm not sure that Canada's ready to reintroduce the penny, Adam.
Go fuck yourself, Dan. It should be getting paid in pounds, if you get what I mean.
You can pound it on your own time. We're trying to record a commercial.
Okay, anyway, Dick, we're going to periodically continue working our way through new releases as they come.
Gross.
As well as discussing some of the published material from Wizards of the Coast that has already hit the shelves. There's a lot of info out there for 5th edition, but not every DM or player knows which book to pick up next, or what to expect from an adventure module. After all, there's some great additions to the library, and then there's, well, Rick and Morty versus D&D.
This series is going to be sporadic and unscheduled, so keep your eyes out for these, and let us know if you agree with our assessments.
We hope that you'll be able to use the series as a guideline for which books deserve your attention for your own personal needs as a D&D player, but keep in mind that they're going to be full of moderate spoilers for the adventures, and they aren't meant to tear into specific mechanics or stat blocks.
As we go on, you'll be able to find previous Legend Lore episodes in a playlist on our YouTube channel, or check out the episode guide to see what books we've already covered by looking at the post on r/it'samimic on Reddit.
Now, let's get back to the episode, shall we? Fuck, one of these days we're going to record a normal fucking commercial.
I highly doubt it.
Well, whose fault is that?
Mostly yours.
Disagree. Alright, so Megan is over at Castle Ravenloft looking into one of the more famous D&D Lycanthropes in 5th edition, the one that everyone will think of when you are not talking about the player's handbook.
Hey guys, so Megan here again from Castle Ravenloft. I've got some bad news. So Doug was right. Anyone who was listening last week about our possible were-rat problem in the catacombs, we can confirm it is an actual were-rat problem. So Doug has kind of kicked us all outside. So we've kind of set up a little tent base camp outside of the castle at this point. Which, to be honest with you, I don't feel any safer. Because after reading about were-rats, I am now reading about were-ravens. And there's a lot of birds here. So I honestly don't feel any safer. So I told Doug that I want to go back inside because I would rather be in there. But until I can, I'll actually just talk to you guys about some were-ravens. So to break down a little bit, these folks are a little bit more secretive and on the cautious side. So they like to actually blend in and go unnoticed as much as possible and really kind of keep to themselves. So these guys are probably actually within society and just operating and functioning within the real humanoid world. A piece that I really love about them, however, is that they don't actually use their bite in battle in fear of spreading their curse, but it's more of not because they would feel bad, but because they're worried that someone who doesn't actually deserve it is going to get it. So they are even more so selective about who they bring into their were-raven world. As well as to think that there are a couple of other really cool character specifics that if you wanted to play a were-raven or use one within your campaign, that would be, good to know. One is, of course, what they call is the kindness of were-ravens, which basically just means that it is a pack of 7 to 10 were-ravens that they like to just hang out with one another or even just blend in with other ravens. So they'll just kind of hang out on a rooftop with a couple of other real ravens because they would get along with their own kind, which is really cool. They love shiny things and, they're totally okay with sharing them with you if you prove that you actually need it. Kind of like a little real Robin Hood story. But I would find it a very fun disadvantage to play out because as a DM, all you would have to do is sprinkle out shiny things as a distraction. I don't know if we would allow that to be as easy as it sounds, but I just think it's hilarious. And then just kind of top it all off, there are some specific rules about when you become a were-raven or, get the were-raven curse as either a player or an NPC. One is that your dex automatically goes up to 15, even if it is lower, obviously. Their bite power is actually based on either strength or dex. It just depends on which stat is stronger for your character. And then, of course, the Wereraven's bite does deliver 1 piercing damage when in Raven form, and then that's how the curse is transferred. So those are some good pieces to know. But I'll get into a couple of their actual stats right now. So in Raven form, they're of course considered a tiny beast, and unaligned, they are a bird, essentially. Armor class of 12, small amount of hit points, and then a speed of 10 feet. So I'm imagining, of course, they've got their little feet, so they're just hopping around. However, they have a fly speed of 50, which is pretty fucking badass. They have a strength of -4. Their dex, however, is +2. Their con is -1. Intelligence is -4. Wisdom +1. And charisma -2. So again, in animal form, I do find they tend to lean towards being dexterous. So movability and dodgeability is kind of like their big thing. And then, of course, wisdom when it comes to their perception skills and their ability to understand their surroundings. So I think this really does check out for any kind of animal form in my mind. Their added skills are perception of +3. Senses, of course, they have passive perception of 13. I find that just like birds in general thought to be very aware. So I feel like that does check out. Again, languages, there is none. There is no language, which I have mentioned a few times when it comes to animals. It makes me wonder why they just don't have their own language. That's just me. And of course, because they're a bird, their challenge rating is 0. So one of the interesting abilities that a raven does have, of course, a common theme with birds is just their ability to mimic other behaviors or just be, dicks in general. So they do have an ability called Mimicry, which is basically just states that the bird, or in raven form, can mimic, simple sounds that it's heard. Kind of things such as a person whispering, or a baby crying, or an animal chittering. And then if they do decide to use this ability, anyone who hears it has to be successful on a DC 10 Wisdom, Insight, or saving throw in order to understand that it is or is not the real thing. So, and honestly, it's for any magical character, that's going to be an easy thing to be able to tell. However, if you are going into any kind of battlement or scary place, usually you'll have a bunch of fighters or fighty characters with you that might not have the wisdom to be able to understand whether or not that sound is correct or not. So be a very interesting thing to play out within games. So let's dip into the humanoid form of the Wereraven. So these, of course, are a medium human creature, humanoid creature, and are lawful good. So they are definitely, this would be a good representation of one that, of a were creature that is actually on the good side, which I think is very fun. They have an armor class of 12, general hit points of 31 or 78, and a speed of 30 feet. So basically like your regular human with legs. And if in a hybrid form, they would have a flying speed of 50 feet. So that's something to kind of keep in mind if you're thinking of building one of these. For basic stats, they have a strength of 0, a dex of +2, a con of 0, intelligence +1, wisdom +2, and charisma +2. So in my mind, they definitely play a little bit more on the intelligence of these creatures, their ability to actually communicate, their ability to actually be smart individuals. Again, very cunning, and I do really like that piece. I mean, they do play on the dexterity piece because in my mind they are birds. They do have the ability to move around very quickly, but I do like that they do have a focus on their intelligence as creatures. For skills, they have an insight +4 and a perception of +6, so again, a huge awareness of their surroundings. You probably could not sneak up on one of these things in any way, shape, or form. I'm just imagining sneaking up on a bird, and it's just very, very rare and very impossible. So I just love that imagery in my head. They do, because they are a were character, have their damage immunities, of course, to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damages from non-magical items or items that are non-silvered. They do have a passive perception as 16 for their senses, which is pretty awesome for being kind of in my mind, a low-level build from the start. And then languages, again, are common, and then can't speak in raven form. Challenge rating of 2, so very simple, very basic. Again, like any other were character, it does have its shape changer capability where it can use its action to use its polymorph to turn into a raven humanoid hybrid or into a raven kind of back into its own form. So still very similar there. It does maintain its mimicry or mimicry capabilities. So again, it can mimic the sounds of what it's heard, such as a person whispering, a baby crying, all that kind of stuff, with a DC Wisdom saving throw of 10. I'm interested as to why the saving throw did not change or shift. When you look at like being a bird shifting into being a humanoid, a lot of its stats automatically increase. It's interesting that this one did not increase here. You would think that in its human form it would have more noise range, if that makes sense. Therefore, in my mind, should be a harder DC to understand if what you're hearing is real or not. So interested to hear your guys' thoughts on that. And then, of course, it is a humanoid, so it has actions if you're going to fight it. So it does have a multi-attack in its human or hybrid form, where it can take 2 weapon attacks, one with either a short sword or a hand crossbow. So, of course, your short sword is your short sword, which is a, +4 to hit with a 1d6 plus 2 piercing damage, and then a hand crossbow, which is a ranged weapon attack with a +4 to hit, and 1d6 plus 2 piercing damage. So very simple there. And they do have an attack called Beak, which is they can use in their Raven or their hybrid form only. And it does count as a weapon melee attack with a +4 to hit, and does 1 piercing damage in Raven form, or 1d4 plus 2 piercing damage in hybrid form. And then, of course, if the human target is a humanoid, it must succeed on a DC 10 Constitution saving throw or be cursed and turn into a lycanthrope of its like. But again, if you were going to build one of these and you are thinking of using it in a campaign, or, build one as a PC that has this curse, keep in mind that you do not have the desire to turn people into a lycanthrope like you do, unless you feel they truly deserve basically what you consider a blessing, in my mind. You guys can try and change my mind on that, but I just feel like these guys are very, very smart about who they bring into their little circle and their little worlds, especially being like very to themselves. I feel like the fear of bringing someone into the Raven Society would be that they would be annoyed by someone, in my mind. So I do feel like that would be a really fun thing to play out. That a Wereraven who's like super smart, super old, super cunning, super charming, has lived a life for a really long time, accidentally turns the most annoying character in the world into a Wereraven, and now has to take care of this Wereraven and hates its guts because it's the exact opposite of him, and now they have to kind of like deal with living together. I just feel like that would be a fun little trope to play out, or little NPCs to come across as a group, these little Wereravens that hate each other. That's just a little fun thing that I think would be really fun. But I do feel like, again, their stat blocks are very much well built to the fact that they are very smart creatures who just want to live within the world as normal people and just be a part of society and help out where they can. So very, very different to a couple of the other were creatures. So I'd be very, very interested to hear your guys' thoughts. But yeah, other than that, of course, anyone in the audience, you feel free to follow me on Instagram at 0mega0. I just post a lot of weird random art stuff, D&D stuff, life stuff, so feel free to follow me there. But otherwise, I'm going to pass it back to you. It is getting really cold out here, so I'm going to go talk to Doug and see if I can get back into the castle. Have yourselves a great day. Bye!
Fucking Doug. Okay, look, every Curse of Strahd campaign needs to have a health and safety guy named Doug, who just happens to know exactly what to look for when it comes to monsters and traps. And I mean, like, he doesn't hunt the monsters. He just walks around with a clipboard giving advice, like, that there's a blood splatter from a carotid artery. Best be on the lookout for vampire spawn here. Does everyone remember their torch training? Okay, raise your hand if you forgot your crucifix at home. Like, you can just picture this guy wearing like a Visi vest and shit too.
Oh God!
Like he's got a hard hat on.
I've met this guy on literally every single job site I've ever been on.
He's got a mustache too.
Yeah.
And it's gray. It's always a gray mustache, and he's got a beer belly.
Yeah. And like very narrow, small, like pin light eyes.
Oh yeah. He's like beady little eyes with big fat red cheeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fuck you, Doug.
It is kind of neat that they see their lycanthropy as a boon and a responsibility rather than a curse. And I mean, it still tracks that they might not want to share it with others because of that. Now, because the beak attack isn't part of the multi-attack, it's also clear that they're holding back in their attacks.
Yeah, they don't want to pass on the lycanthropy. Again, they have a different motivation from the Werebear and the Weretiger on this, which is kind of neat and fun as well.
I like it.
I also think it's weird that a Raven's walking speed is 10 feet, but it makes no mention of that in the Wereraven stat block in Curse of Strahd. It just leaves it at 30 feet, regardless of the form. I'm definitely going to change it to honor the 5-foot movement if I'm infecting a player. If I'm going to change a fly speed to boom, you have it, then I'm going to change your walking speed when you're in full Raven form.
Yeah, no, I'm with it. Adam?
Yep.
I think it's time to talk about the elephant in the room. Do you think Megan has ever heard the word mimicry before?
I was going to bring it up.
She said mimicry like a dozen times.
And she corrected it one of the times.
Yeah, to mimicry. I wish she wasn't so damn scary because I would love to rip on her for this.
Yeah, good luck with that. I will pass on a message to your widow. Okay, anyway, Megan did point out when she was talking about Mimicry that the DC for the insight check for Mimicry feature is the same in both the Raven and the Wereraven. Do you like that? Do you think the Wereraven should have a better Mimicry skill because of its higher intelligence?
100%.
I think so too. I don't like it, so to DC 10, I think it is. I don't like that.
No, it's got to be higher. Like they're just going to be able to do it better.
That is something that I'm going to homebrew myself. I'm going to give it a DC 13.
I would make it, well, I would even put it higher. Like I would make it supernaturally good at mimicry.
Yes and no. I mean, I think that, look, they're not Michael Winslow from the Police Academy movies, right?
Good cut.
Yeah, okay. That it's not your beeps, creeps, and your sweeps or whatever it was from Spaceballs, right? Yeah. Like, that's not what we're dealing with here. These guys are mimicking the sound of clicking doors and a bell in the distance and someone else going, nope, right? It's really short, sharp things that they are replicating here, these sounds. So, to a degree, yes, but they're not ventriloquists.
It's especially weird when you see that a Kenku's mimicry is a DC 14.
Yeah, but the Kenku they're cursed magical creatures. It's like saying a turtle and a turtle, right? They are different. A Wereraven is based on a raven.
Yes.
A Kenku is not. Just like an Aarakocra is not based on an eagle.
I mean, but they both have the mimicry skill. They're both close enough there. And you see that Wereravens are given this same as a normal bird. But Kenkus, who have to live this life their entire day, are higher. I'm okay with that. But
that's why I say I'd give it
Wereraven like a 12 or a 13. Like it should be just a little.
It shouldn't
worse
be
than
as high as a Kenku.
Yeah,
no, I'm with you on that.
Now, it does say for player options when it comes to playing a Wereraven, it's going to adjust your dexterity this time, not your strength, to a 15 if it isn't that high already. Now, your attack and damage for the bite attack are strength or dex based, whichever is higher. And you will notice that the boost to dex doesn't specify which form. Okay? As with everything else. Now, there is no mention of an alignment or AC change when it comes to Wereraven. And the beak attack has also been abandoned.
Yeah, they call it a bite attack in this blurb.
It's a beak attack.
It's a beak attack.
It's a beak attack. So, strangely, on top of that, they do mention that while in Raven form, the bite does 1 piercing damage and gets no ability modifier to add to the rolls. So I guess that nonsense about choosing strength or dexterity only applies to the human or hybrid forms.
I guess.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, all right. That's such a weird thing to...
I honestly, I would make it the same as any of the other bite attacks we've seen. Probably closest to the Werebat. Because of size.
Hell, what's the damage modifier on the beak attack? It's 1d4, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Just
give him the 1d4.
Yeah, I mean, sure, hell, why not? Anyway, yeah, that's weird. Anyway, so I did do a lot of digging into Wereravens and trying to find out what the reflective eyes look like.
Sure.
In the dark, and the answer is they don't have it.
Yeah, that's weird.
Their eyes are naturally red in light. But in darkness, they're not reflective.
Okay.
So that's why you think about the glowing red eyes on ravens and whatnot. Also, did you know what a group of ravens is called?
It's not a murder. It's
a kindness, which is why these guys are on the good side of the alignment chart.
Cool.
Yeah. So let's roll for some questions about how these guys fit into the mobs.
Sure. I got a 6.
Hey, you beat me. I got a 5. There you go, Dan. You bitch enough. Something will happen. So my first question for you is, do they mix well with others? How big is their troop, like their kindness,
I'd say, yeah, they do. Wereravens, I mean, we live in an area where, like, crows are the rats of the sky. So I see Wereravens kind of collecting in groups as well, as we see, like, Wererats would collect in groups as well.
Yeah, there's going to be a large group
right?
of ravens.
But opposed to Wererats, Wereravens will be more helpful to the party.
Yeah, I also see a Wereraven drinking in a bar.
Yeah.
Right, they'll hit their human form, and they'll hang out with the people in town.
Mm-hmm.
But are they joining armies?
No. Maybe as, like, that one trusted scout.
Or like militia level? Like, they're not particularly warfaring.
No. They are, I wouldn't say they're necessarily cowards, but they dance that line.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. Do you have any idea about a social encounter when you run into a Wereraven?
I would love to have one, like, drawing your party towards some sort of clue or knowledge or item that is deep in the dark of the woods, and they know it's there, and they are not strong enough to deal with the threat that guards it. So they will draw your party there with their mimicry. And they'll hop from tree to tree, drawing your party slowly over here until your party sees the encounter, and then they will reveal themselves.
Why would they not just speak? Because that's the difference between them and Kenku.
Yeah, I would say because they are still weird enough. Like, if your party hasn't run into Kenku, if your party hasn't run into any of that stuff, it still is going to take your party by surprise when this guy drops down and then speaks a normal sentence to you.
Yeah,
right? Okay. I would say they would use their mimicry in enticing ways, not in limiting ways, if that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah, I like that well enough. I can see these guys also being, because in my head they're on the outskirts of society, but they're well respected enough, but you're not going to have a noble family of Wereravens. I think there actually is one in Curse of Strahd, now that I've said that. But for the most part, I do see them kind of on the outskirts, more like the Vistani are on the outskirts of the society, right? They're not ingrained in the actual towns in Barovia. So I feel like you're going to get a lot of thieves.
Yeah, but I mean, pardon the aviary pun here, but they're going to be a lot like Robin Hood. They're stealing from the rich to give to somebody.
Yeah, I think so. Like, they're stealing to survive.
Yeah.
They're picking up loaves of bread and stuff to take back to the kindness in the caves or whatever. Right? So they're not there for... This is not a thieves guild. It's not about riches. It is about survival for them. But I also like the idea of there being, like, sarcastic little Wereravens that are going to taunt you a little bit, and then you say something and they just throw it right back in your face by mimicking the thing that you did. It's not enough to piss off your barbarian, enough to pull his axe out. But it is enough to make everyone around the table kind of laugh at the barbarian.
Why are you repeating me? Why are you repeating me?
Yeah, exactly, right? So, just a little fun. I wouldn't get obnoxious with it.
I get a little obnoxious with it.
I don't think you can help it, motherfucker. Do you have any plot hooks specifically besides that? Like any big Wereraven specific, you need a Wereraven for this plot hook?
Because there's so many different options for that type of creature, with where you see Kenku, some Aarakocra could fit in that as well.
If you've got like flying,
right? Like specifically a Wereraven. I don't know, man. It'd be really hard to shoehorn that specifically in with a...
Your answer is Nevermore?
Yeah.
Yikes. No, I'm going to say that, honestly, they've got some good plot hooks in Curse of Strahd. I don't want to talk about them because I don't want to give away the actual storyline of that, because it is the most popular D&D material, but there's some good stuff with
At least Wizards is trying to make it the most popular.
Yeah, whether you like it or not. Anyway, let's move on. Dave is still dicking around in Eberron. He's looking for answers on his draconic prophecy, so let's see what insanity he's discovered there.
Thanks, guys. Dave here again. I am still in the forests of Drome, and we've still been seeing a lot of different lycanthropes. I mean, as you guys know, we're looking for secrets to the draconic prophecy, and it's kind of taken us into this, 13th country of Khorvaire, but, there's some weird stuff here. The one that I came across recently was the Werebat. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with these, but a Werebat is a humanoid that is afflicted with a rare form of lycanthropy, okay? Now, it will enable it to transform into a giant bat or a bat/humanoid hybrid, okay? Now, every time that these guys transform, I imagine that they go, bat! And then, poof, it happens, right? Now, as you know, werebats are humanoids that have been transformed with lycanthropy, but specifically werebats are most commonly made from goblins, okay? Now, the goblins that find other goblins that have turned into werebats tend to shun the werebats. The idea that these guys need to feed on blood to survive kind of wigs them out a little bit, okay? They prefer to set up in like dark places, you know, like the tops of buildings, caves, you know, other stuff kind of like that. They prefer to spend their time, especially the daytime, holed up in higher up places that they can hide in that are, you know, dark and such. They like attics, they like caves, things like that. They do typically hunt at night, okay? So that's when they go out looking for their blood. Now, a werebat must consume at least 1 pint of fresh blood each night, or it weakens and gains a level of exhaustion. This cannot be undone by rest, okay? Each pint of blood that the werebat consumes removes 1 level of exhaustion gained in this fashion. So if you've got 1 level and you want to get back up, you got to have 1 pint, but to keep it up through that day, you still need another pint, okay? So you might need a couple here. Now, werebats are small humanoid creatures. I mean, they say that they're goblins, but they don't have to be. They are neutral evil. Their AC is 23, and they have 7d6 hit points, so an average of 24. They get a 30-foot speed, they get a climb of 30 feet, and when they're in their bat or hybrid form, get a 60-foot fly speed, okay? Now, I mentioned their dexterity is a 17, their wisdom is a 12, and those are the only 2 that are above a 10. Their strength and charisma are the lowest at an 8, okay? For skills, they get a perception of +3 and a stealth of +5. They are immune to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks that are made with silvered weapons. That's pretty standard for all lycanthropes. They get 60 feet of dark vision and a passive perception of 13. They do speak goblin, and they can't speak in bat form. Again, they don't have to be goblins. Maybe you're going to change that up. Maybe if a humanoid was turned into a werebat, it would speak common instead of goblin, right? So flavor it the way you want to. This is just what the text in the book is talking about. Now, these guys are CR2, okay? They also get the shape changer ability. A werebat can use his action to polymorph into a medium bat humanoid hybrid or into a large giant bat. They can also use their action to transform back into their true form, which is their humanoid form. Their stats, other than its size, are the same in each of its form. Any equipment it is wearing or carrying is not transformed, and the creature reverts back to its true form if it dies. Now, these things also get echolocation, but only in their bat or hybrid form. The werebat has blind sight out to 60 feet as long as it isn't deafened. They also have keen hearing, which gives them advantage on wisdom or perception checks, where they rely on their hearing to figure out where, where something's coming from. They do get the nimble escape feature as well, but only when they're in their humanoid form. The werebat can take the disengage or hide action as a bonus action on each of its turns, and it also gets the sunlight sensitivity ability, I guess, if you want to call it an ability. While they're in sunlight, the werebat has disadvantage on attack rolls, as well as perception checks that rely on sight. It does get a multi-attack in its humanoid or hybrid form only. The humanoid form, the werebat makes 2 scimitar attacks or 2 short bow attacks. In its hybrid form, it can make 1 bite and 1 scimitar, okay? The bite, which is bat or hybrid form only, is a +5 to hit, and it does 1d6 +3 piercing. The werebat then gains temporary hit points equal to the damage dealt. If the target is a humanoid, it must succeed on a DC 10 con save or be cursed with lycanthropy. In its humanoid or hybrid form, it does get a scimitar attack, which is a +5 to hit, 1d6 +3 slashing damage, or a short bow, which is a ranged weapon attack, which is +5 to hit, and that does 1d6 +3 piercing damage. So bats, as well as werebats, in my opinion, I think are again going to be kind of swoop in and attack, and then take off again. They're going to come in, try to bite you, drink a little bit of blood, and then get out of there. They're not looking around. They're not looking for a big fight. Even though the Werebat is a CR2, it's not looking to put that to use. You know, they're timid. They're scared. They want to run. Now, I see these guys also maybe being kind of shunned and on the outskirts of a goblin society. If there was a big goblin encampment or a goblin city or something, like you would find, you know, a little to the east here in Corvair, you might find these guys on the outskirts, kind of feasting on what's left over from the goblins. They were goblins. They like the idea of goblins, but they're not really accepted by goblins. So maybe they'll be terrorizing or feasting in the areas around these goblin settlements. That's kind of how I would use them, as just kind of an outskirts kind of encounter. You know, nothing crazy, nothing ridiculous, but if they don't take it seriously, getting transformed into a werebat could maybe change their attitude on these things moving forward. Other than that, I'm going to send it here back to Adam and Dan. If you guys need to get a hold of me, you can always find me at the subreddit r/itsAmimic. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Okay, so for those of you who didn't get Dave's joke, werebats don't actually yell "bat" when they transform. He's referencing What We Do in the Shadows, which is a brilliant show everyone should be watching.
I have been on a big Matt Berry kick recently, like massive. I have found out he is in a lot of shows that I like as a voice actor. Like
yeah.
He's in. I'm making my way through Disenchantment right now, which is the Matt Groening.
Do you like that? I don't.
Ish. Like, it's definitely, nerds will like this. Like, it's definitely kind of got that feel to it. But I've been told that it's definitely one of those slow burns that just gets really, really good. And I've been recommended it by a couple people. I fucking
hope so, because I tuned in for season 1, and there was no redeemable quality. Like, there's no charm. There's no warmth to it.
Matt Berry is the redeeming quality of season 1. He plays the prince that's trying to marry Bean.
Yeah.
And like, he straight up bangs a group of walruses. And I'm just like, yes. That is the most Matt Berry thing to do.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's not my cup of tea. Anyway, let's get back to this.
Sure. Now, I know, Matt Berry aside, the stat block that Dave is using uses goblins as a base. But would you shrink anyone to small size in their hybrid form for the werebat? I mean, Dave points out that they only speak goblin, which can be changed if you choose a different base humanoid. But would you change the size and take away nimble escape in that case?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think that most people would. I think that, look, if I'm going to whip out werebats, I'm going to whip out my leathery monster to show my...
That shrieks at people?
It doesn't shriek. It has echolocation through the caves.
It just clicks?
No, it doesn't click.
It's echolocation. It's clicking.
It doesn't click. I don't want to say it screeches. It hums. Say it hums.
See you, doctor. Shouldn't hum.
Anyway, no, I would absolutely 100%.
I mean, we
change it based on the base humanoid.
We saw this when we talked last week about using your elves in there and giving them something like an elven accuracy or
the Fey ancestry.
Or the Fey ancestry. Yeah.
It's the same thing.
It's the exact same thing here, right? In the same respect, if you have a goblin-based werebear, give it nimble escape. That's fun.
Yeah.
And Fury of the Small, to be honest, but we're not going to talk about that.
No, I do like the idea of these guys being around goblinoid camps and preying on goblins. I can picture them doing that and beefing up their numbers, but I can also see the goblinoids hunting these fuckers down. So, how do you feel about the fact that the werebat can fly faster than the wereraven?
I like it, actually.
Do you?
Yes. I'm not sure if you've seen ravens fly all that often. They're not exactly rapid flyers. I recently this week actually saw a raven straight up getting assaulted by like a group of crows who are just like having none of his shit, right? So there's this gigantic raven flying overhead with 3 like annoying crows pecking at it. And the crows were like flying past it, doubling back and dive bombing him again. And this thing was just lazily making its way through the sky. I'm okay with that. Now, we both used to be Boy Scouts. I've done a lot of camping, a lot of areas where there are bats, and those things fucking hum through the air. They just go.
Yeah, see, they hum.
Right? So I'm trying to help you out here. So Yeah, I'm okay with Werebats flying faster.
What's interesting, though, for me is that werebats bats anyway, don't fly in a straight line. I don't mind them flying 50 feet, but I'm almost going to have them zigzagging around and shit. They're going to have randomized patterns. They're not going to dive bomb like
they're going to fly this way until there's a tree there, and then they'll turn and fly the other way.
Not even. You see them out in the open air. They're not flying in one direction. They flit around like a fucking moth.
Yeah.
Right?
I also want to point out that I really like the fact that they turn into giant bats and not regular bats.
Yeah.
When the lycanthropy strikes. We cover the giant stat block in episode 102.
Giant bat stat.
Yeah, the giant stat block. We cover the giant bat stat block back in episode 102 when we were working with the Orc Assassins.
The Red Fangs of Shargas.
Yeah.
It was the post-credit clip that James gave us.
Yeah. But I really like the fact that these guys get giant bats because, of course, they would. But your werebear is not getting a dire bear.
Your wererat is still just rat.
Yeah.
Right? Like they turn into a rat. Hard stop. One of the things that was interesting for me, because I was looking into this, is that in the artwork for the hybrid form in Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which is where you find the stat block, they don't have hands. Their upper limbs are part of their wings like a wyvern. But they still get a bite and a scimitar attack in hybrid form. Are they grabbing the scimitar with their feet, or do you think this is just an artist miscommunicating?
No, I think they're still grabbing it with like their like little hands.
They don't have hands. They have the one single claw.
I'd say they're grabbing it with the one single claw on their hooks.
They should have disadvantage on that, man. I defy you. Use one finger to hold a sword.
Fair, but I mean...
And then flap your arms up and down and try to hit things with it.
So yeah, I would say definitely with their feet in that respect. If that art is canon, I think it's honestly a mistake. When I think of a werebat, I think of man-bat.
I think of you want to know what a werebat, a goblin werebat is? You've seen Gremlins 2 with the bat, right?
Yeah,
like, that is a goblin werebat to me.
100%.
So okay, do you think that their ability to heal from biting and drinking blood makes them beefier for a CR2? If you get 4 or 5 of these things together, I think they're going to act like a CR3. They're going to stay up longer.
Mix in the damage immunity and 100%. Yeah. You're giving a health regen ability to something that's probably not going to be taking a lot of damage, especially at this low level, right? Because you don't even have a magic item full stop, let alone one that is also silver.
Yeah, and honestly, by the time you run into 4 or 5 of these things,
you don't have the firepower. Literally, with a wizard, a fireball
at level 2.
No. You don't.
So yeah.
Now, do you agree with Dave that these things are going to stay near goblin encampments, or do you think that they'd fly off, make their homes elsewhere, and then come in and attack, intermittently from these darker environments?
I can see them being in the Underdark or heading to cave systems or in mines and whatnot. But goblins are in mines and stuff too.
Yeah.
So maybe the goblins are in a mine, but these things are in a cave system that's higher up the mountain.
Well, I like that. I also like because goblins are, short. They're small-sized creatures. Having a alcove off of the vertical edge of the cave, like the tunnels in the cave, where these things stay, right? And they just pop down to abduct and pull a goblin up to the top of this 8-foot-high cave through an alcove to like this little space vertically, where they then dismantle and eat the goblin.
Okay. So you pointed out a couple of times, so I'm gonna point it out. In Dungeons of the Mad Mage, it actually has a little bit about the dexterity bump. Moves up to 17 if it isn't that high already. Attack and damage rolls for the natural attack is dexterity based.
Yep.
And you'll notice, of course, again, that it doesn't specify which form it's in. It's pretty standard with all of them.
Yeah.
There is no mention of alignment or AC change, so...
I'm not sure I like that. I would prefer them to be evil, to be honest.
Yeah, but they're neutral evil, and so are goblins, so I think that's why.
Sure, okay.
So, anyway...
What about their eye color, Adam? What do we got for that?
White, interestingly enough.
Really?
Bats have white retinas in the dark. I would have said red. If you had asked me, I'd have said red. Yeah. But no, apparently it's white.
Cool.
It's very similar to things like possums and other small nocturnal
mammals,
rodents, specifically. So, anyways, let's grab our dice and talk now about encounter ideas and whatnot. our inspiration for Werebats and how they fit into the overall lycanthropy spectrum here. And then we're done with our true lycanthropes.
Sure, let's do it. I got a 7.
I got a 13. Hey, yeah, we're back to normal. Okay.
Everything's right in the world.
I love these guys for social encounters.
Okay.
I love the idea that these guys are goblins. Okay, so you have to think that at one point it was a goblin that then got fed upon and then sprouted fucking wings, and all the goblins kicked his ass out, and now he's got to live up in this stinky ass cave with these weird looking motherfuckers, and he hates it. He wants to be back down there with. He used to be one of the booyogs, or he had something going for him, but now he's an outcast. So he runs across the party. Yeah, I'll tell you how to get in there. Yeah, I'll tell you exactly where they are. Yeah, right.
Just a bitter little guy.
They're neutral evil. I like them being vindictive. How do you feel about them from a social standpoint?
I'm pretty much the same. I like the fact that they have that streak of vindictiveness to them. They have that streak of I'll show you to them. Like, these are the guys who aren't happy that they're cursed. But they know about it. They're miserable with it, and regardless of the race, like, they're going to actively go out of their way to screw with whoever put them in this situation to begin with.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here looking at the idea for like plot hooks.
Okay.
I don't see a whole lot for Werebats specifically that isn't revolving around goblins. Just because they're so closely tied. Again, you're going to run into these guys in the outskirts of the goblin encampment, so you're going to run into them first.
I don't know. We see a lot of the races in D&D are animal-based, right? Or at least have a heavy animal bend to them. Bats, of course, with goblinoids.
Yep.
Spiders with drow. Like these pigs with orcs, right? We see a lot of these kind of groupings happening.
Yep.
I would be far more open as a player to, as a DM, to loop bats in with another one of these groups, or have them be the religious marker of some mountain-dwelling dwarf clan, right? And have some dwarven werebats, right? Like, I would get really, really weird with it, just because there's nothing saying that you can't have some kobold werebats. And what does that do to a kobold?
Yeah, also I really like that because if you're playing with the strict rules where you don't need like the full moon or anything, they can just look like a winged kobold. But your weapons aren't doing damage.
Oh, badass, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't understand what's going on with him because he's a kobold. So you just have this one winged kobold that is just impervious to damage, and he just thinks he's a winged kobold. He doesn't even understand he's a lycanthrope.
Well, that would mean that he's always in his hybrid form then.
Yeah.
Which means he would look a little bit more bat-like.
Doesn't matter. He's a kobold.
Sure. Okay. I like the idea of pairing them as sidekicks with the Iron Shadow Hobgoblins, the assassins.
Yeah.
I like that as well. But I was saying before about how you can throw in different lycanthropes to. We're talking about the Rakshasa and the Tabaxi and the Weretiger.
Yeah.
And where we've muddied the water intensely over here, right? What about using a werebat, a human werebat, to stand in for a vampire? They think they're up against a vampire. They go to put the wooden stake through his heart or to drag him outside in the sunlight, and he's like, the fuck are you doing? All right, let's go. Right? Like, that can be really fun. This is a good way for you to throw vampire-themed things at a party at, like, tier 1. Because vampires are scary, man.
I could see Strahd, not to add more to Strahd, because
Strahd is... properly.
Strahd. Just not that, like, Strahd is... under CR'd as it is. He is definitely more powerful than his CR.
And yet he goes down like a bitch in every campaign.
Yes. Mostly because everybody goes, we're fighting a vampire and we know how to do it.
Yeah. Hey, who's got the sun sword?
But that, exactly, right? Put a couple of these guys around him as like a honor guard. Instead of like vampire spawn, make them like, you could make them vampire spawn where...
Do lycanthropes eat undead? I don't think they would bite the undead.
But would a vampire turn a werebat?
Ooh.
Right?
Oh, okay. Okay. I see what you did there. I like that.
And it's a curse. It's not going to go away if it's still ambulatory.
Yeah, no, that's fun. That's cool. Now you've You're just fucking with the players now.
Uh-huh.
All right, I like that.
I'm doing this specifically for Dave, who just needs more ways to fuck with his players.
Well, he's running Mad Mage right now, so Kyle, when you're listening to this, bud, you got Werebats in your future.
Sorry. Anyways, so before we move on here, I do want to call out specifically a friend of the podcast who's been with us since...
Oh, the beginning?
The beginning. This is Crystal and Graham. They are a local couple here who we are still in frequent contact with. It was actually Crystal's birthday, I want to say a week and a bit ago, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Happy birthday, Crystal.
Happy birthday, Crystal. Now, the reason why I'm calling Crystal out is not just because it's her birthday and we love them and we love the fact that they've been with us for so long.
And we want more cake.
And we want more cake. I mean, COVID, but we do want more cake.
Yeah.
Crystal is not just a fantastic baker, Adam.
No.
Crystal is also a fantastic Photoshop artist.
Yeah, apparently. Because good lord.
Yeah, so Crystal loved the Deep Dark Irradiance that we did a while back and sent us a full-on poster that she made inspired framed in shit. And it is the most beautiful piece of fan art we've ever gotten on the podcast.
Yeah, so, challenge for the rest of you to get us fan art, I guess.
Now, we'll make sure that this gets, a picture of this gets posted on Instagram and stuff so you guys can see it. But I am in awe. It's got Gertie, it's got Rip, it's got the whole crew.
Yeah, even the dead ones. Thanks for pointing that out.
Even the dead ones.
Yeah, shit.
And very specifically, featured prominently, like was featured in Deep Dark, the big-ass ravens with red eyes.
And wolves, too, in the background. Like,
yeah, it's fantastic.
So we've been kind of holding off on giving a thank you. We got this for Christmas, and it is now April. We've been waiting for Call of Cthulhu to get back up and running.
It immediately went up on my wall, and Adam and I had a preteen girls sing Backstreet Boys level squee fest.
Well, it showed up, and it was Dave and I actually that opened it, and Dave was so freaking giddy. And then I'm like, Dan, and I think I spammed you.
You did.
And then I
was having a busy day at work too, so I didn't respond because I was in a parkade or something, and I walked into cell reception and my phone exploded.
Yeah, and I was just so excited. And then I brought this over to our little recording space here in the basement, and it is a place of prominence on the wall. It is beautiful. We actually have two different versions of it, hey? We've got the digital one and then the one that she used for printing, but the different characters are in different places.
Oh, really?
Among the two. So I'm going to put both of them up on Instagram so you can swipe on the post and see the...
Oh, that's great.
Anyways, thank you, Crystal. It is freaking amazing.
Happy belated birthday.
Yes, Terry squealed like a little bitch.
Oh, well, I mean, he does that usually.
Yeah, Mieka and Megan were so thrilled. The whole crew was just... We absolutely love it. It is amazing. It is our favorite thing. And on bad days where there's too much editing to do and stuff, it is the background on my desktop.
Oh,
it is, yeah, it is the thing that gets me through the... Why do I fucking do this? Anyways, I just want to remind everyone that besides Instagram, you can check us out on Facebook and r/It's a Mimic on Reddit. I'll post it up there as well.
Yeah.
You can always reach out to us through our email at info@itsamimic.com because we love hearing from you guys. And any questions you send us will get added to the lists for our upcoming mailbag episodes. Now, we already have a ton, but we always want more because... the more we have, the more often we will do them.
Yeah.
We tend to blitz through, 20 at a time? Although I think recently we've been doing more than 20 on an episode. We get inspired.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we get the 20 and then we're like, here's the favorite ones we didn't roll, guys.
Yeah, right. So anyway, that's it for our standard Lycanthropes, but there are still some other creatures worth mentioning in the conversation on Lycanthropes. And we're going to jump over to Terry in the Green Dragon Inn to give us some insights on a different kind of shape changer. He's going to mix it up a little bit.
Okay, thanks Adam and Dan for passing it back over to me. I have the absolute pleasure today of talking to you about Jackalwere. Sometimes I feel like a little bit of a Jackalwere. So ordinarily, jackals that are tainted by demonic power are Jackalweres, and they'll haunt roads and trails and will just basically they're just out murdering people that they meet. And while that just seems a little bit silly in itself, it's not to me, and it's worth remembering later on. So 3 physical forms. You can have your human form, typically. You know, feel free to play around with that if there's a reason for the story. It doesn't need to be a human. You have your hybrid form, which is, you know, half person, half jackal, as we've seen in all types of lycanthropes in the movies. And then you have your full jackal form. If a Jackalwere is accepted or taken in by travelers, it will typically switch to his hybrid form, but that in itself is a suicide act, if you ask me. So let's look at a Jackalwere. Medium humanoid. Of course, they're a shape changer. They're chaotic evil. So, armor class, a little bit above average here. We're thinking 12. It's going to be a lower amount of hit points, 4d8, well, that's fine. Speed. Ground speed of 40 feet, that's good. I like a good bit of movement in this game. I think movement's overlooked. There's too much standing and banging for my liking, you know. Everybody picks their spot. Round 1, they'll maybe move 30 feet or something, and then they just stay there, active insanity, just keep doing the same thing even if it's not working. Movement's important. Where you start your turn, where you finish your turn, in preparation for where you're going to start your turn next. And when you've got more movement, you've got more options. Even having an additional 10 feet over the standard gives you a lot more options. Okay, let's look at their strength. A little bit higher than the average human. Dexterity, considerably higher. Constitution, it's going to be a little bit higher than your average human. Of course, they've got a little bit more going on to them. And then for their mental stats, Jackalwere is quite intelligent. I'm going to say this. For those of you that are listening, a Jackalwere is considerably more intelligent than you. It is, okay? So the intelligence for a Jackalwere is 13. That's +1. That means they're smarter than you. Wisdom, they also have more awareness of the world than you do, okay? Charisma is going to be about what me and you have. Skills, deception +4, that's important. Perception +2, stealth +4, also important. These guys might have fewer amount of hit points and they're going to come in earlier tiers of the game, but this should not be an easy enemy to deal with. Not only just in combat, but in the exploration pillar of the game, okay? This Jackalwere is hunting you, and by the way, it knows where you are before you know where it is. It is smarter than you, and it is likely stealthier than you. Immunities, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical weapons that aren't silvered. That's important. Sometimes it's frustrating, but it's important to know. Passive perception for their senses is 12. Languages, common, they can't speak in their jackal form. That makes sense. Challenge rating, half. So shape changer, the Jackalwere can use its action to polymorph into a specific medium human or jackal humanoid hybrid, or back into its true form, which is that of a small jackal. Other than its size, statistics are the same in each form. Any equipment it is wearing or carrying isn't transformed. It reverts to its true form if it dies. Keen hearing and smell. So the Jackalwere has advantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on hearing or smell. Again, it knows where you are before you know where it is. Pack tactics. The Jackalwere has advantage on attack rolls against a creature if at least one of the Jackalwere's allies is within 5 feet of the creature and the ally isn't incapacitated. You know, I think there's rules on this stuff, or not rules, there's debate on this as to whether or not that ally needs to be a threat, whether or not that ally needs to even be paying attention to them. Incapacitated makes sense. When I think of pack tactics like this, it's in the same vein as sneak attack. It is that you are not surprising them because somebody else is there. It is that your target has more to focus on. And so will temporarily be distracted, and this is what gives you the advantage, because it has to observe two creatures. To me, it doesn't really matter if they're a threat or not. They may be food. They may be distracted because they're observing food and a threat, or they may be observing somebody that they don't want to leave and a threat. So as long as they're not incapacitated, don't feel that this person that's giving you advantage, this other ally, needs to be a threat. I don't believe they necessarily do. But, you know, some DMs have good arguments for it. Actions. So bite, Jackal can do it in its Jackalwere can do it in its Jackal. It's hybrid form only. It's a melee weapon attack. We get +4 to hit with that reach of 5 feet. We all know how it goes. 1d4 +2 for piercing damage. Typically, they'll also carry a scimitar. Get interesting with it. Depends on whereabouts in the world they are. You can change that up if you want. It's going to be +4 to hit for a melee weapon attack. 5 feet for the scimitar for the reach. And there's 1d6 +2. Slashing damage, but let's talk about this one. Sleep gaze. The Jackalwere gazes at one creature it can see within 30 feet of it. The target must make a DC 10 wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the target succumbs to its magical slumber, falling unconscious for 10 minutes or until someone uses an action to shake the target awake. I would argue that if you are being shaken awake because somebody has slammed a warhammer into your face, that would also wake you up. A creature that successfully saves against the effect is immune to Jackalwere's gaze for the next 24 hours. Undead or creatures immune to being charmed aren't affected by it. So there's a Jackalwere. This isn't like when I was previously talking about the Werebat, where I say there's room for personality changes and things. I think this creature is inherently chaotic evil. I haven't really heard a strong enough argument for me yet on why it wouldn't be. It does not recognize your moral standpoint on things, and this creature does not think like you. So what that means is any strategy you have for trying to convince it to do something, for adjusting the way it thinks, or for trying to get inside of its mind, you're doing that based on your 0 point, your moral standpoint, on what you think is correct, and what you assume other people, on how other people are going to think, and this creature is not going to think like you. It's important to bear in mind for players and DMs alike. And that's Jackalwere's, guys. That's all from me for now. I'm going to hand it back over to Adam and Dan. I'll catch you later. Have a good one.
So my favorite part about the Jackalweres is that they are jackals first that are then blessed with humanity. It's backwards from the basic trope, hence the name Jackalwere instead of Werejaguar.
Yes.
Right? Of course, this doesn't happen by accident. Our good friend, the demon prince himself, Gratz, created them to serve his own servants, who are the Lamias.
Okay, my favorite part of the lore is that they're created to lie. And it actually causes them mild pain to tell the truth. And they can be caught wincing when they have to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The other thing to note is that they're in it for kidnapping and enslaving, but not for murder, necessarily.
I mean, they will murder if their backs are pushed to the wall, yeah.
Yeah. They use their gaze to kidnap people and take them back to their Lamia masters, who probably at the end of the day will murder whoever they bring back.
Yes. But. And they roam with other jackals who bow instinctively to their leadership, which is, like, that answers my question about the pack, right?
I honestly think all Lycanthropes should have this with their creatures.
I'm still going to make a hard argument that werebears have it in a very limited form, of where tigers are absolutely not. They're not going to hang out with other tigers.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Because I'm sorry, even like a weretiger will not breed with a tiger. There's no reason for it to take a mate, which is why tigers get together in the first place.
Yeah, okay. That's fair enough. Now, when we're looking at these guys, we know that they are liars, they're schemers, and they also have that higher intelligence. Do you think those two facts are connected?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you can't be an effective liar without a decent amount of intelligence. It's interesting that their charisma's not through the roof, because that's the lying stat.
I think it's the wincing that's going to take, like, them whenever they have to tell the truth, and like that's where that negative part of their charisma comes in.
Yeah, I think that their intelligence is the ability to craft and scheme their way and throw these plots together and whatnot. And they will know, they will have, look, I can spend an entire conversation and never tell the truth without lying, because I can just kind of work my way around the outsides of answering a question with a question and other things. And I think that Jackalweres would know how to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that tracks.
I really like that we get another sleep action here. Mm-hmm. We don't get enough of that. I love sleep on a monster, especially because these guys will totally move in groups, and succeeding on the save only makes you immune to this creature's sleep gaze.
Not his buddy next to him.
That's right. I just wish that the DC was higher than 10. It just feels super, super low.
Now, so as we've seen with previous breakdowns, this is where we put in our player options. Now, there is no player option for a Jackalwere in 5th edition. It just doesn't work out. You don't start as a jackal and then become a player character.
You start off as a jack off. Does that count?
No.
No, it doesn't count, Dan. It doesn't count, so stop it.
Okay. However, if you want a baseline to go off of, Monty Cook, back in the 3.5 day, came out with a book called The Arcana Unearthed. And in it is the race called the Sebeki. Now, the Sebeki are humanoid jackal creatures. And they are strong, hardy, and excellent warriors and fierce opponents, is what it says there. They are haughty and arrogant at times, and believing themselves to be a chosen race. They are basically, what they would give you is a bonus to Constitution, as well as your low life vision and they are closely tied with giants in that respect. If you wanted to dip into that, you can. They also get a bit of a scent ability as well. Now, 3.5 is weird, and there was leveling up to go there, but if you wanted a good spot to bounce off of for creating your own jackal-themed were whatever, Sebeki from the Arcana Unearthed would count.
It is so weird that you pronounce it that way. Because I just looked it up, and it's pronounced Sebekai. And the reason that I thought that you would know that is because it's actually a biblical name.
Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It has that Hebrew feel to it.
Yeah, a mighty warrior of David's time from the town of Hushah, who slew the giant Saph during a battle with the Philistines.
It might be extra biblical. Like, it might be outside of Scripture. I don't...
He was among David's 30 mighty men who apparently were renowned for great individual feats. In 1 Chron... What is Chron?
First Chronicles.
First Chronicles 11:29. So there we go. So, there's some weird... It's weird that they gave them jackal heads in...
yeah.
But that's a cool little piece of trivia there. Let's roll, though.
Okay.
Hold on. Before we roll, their eyes are greenish-white.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So let's roll about how they fit with the mobs.
We both rolled 4s.
Good 6. All right, Dan.
I got an 11.
There we go. Okay, so a social idea for these guys.
I mean, it's never going to go well for your party if you're having a social interaction with these guys. They're trying to trick you into something.
Yeah, they're going to fuck with you.
Right? So, they are going to, because they're plotters and schemers, they are going to be that kind of, they're going to be that kind of social encounter where they're going to give you the information you want, but they're clearly going to hold back information for leverage.
They're going to get information from you to work it against you later.
Yeah, right. I think of a Baron Zemo level stuff when what we see in the MCU right now.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Like, just very smart and will cooperate, but they're not going to tell you what they don't want you to know. And they're going to get information from you, even if you aren't aware that they're pulling it from you.
Yeah, actually, I think of Black Widow talking to Loki in the first Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Where he goes off at her and she's just like, oh, okay, I know where we're going now. This is the plan, right? And then off she goes. So she just manipulates him without ever telling the truth, but never really actively lying either, just acting. I think that these guys are super manipulative. I think that you're right. Also, they are not going to kill you. They're going to knock you out, but they're taking you back for sacrificial reasons or to enslave you, right? Like, there's a part of this where you are just going to be slain and eaten by the Lamia as part of a demonic ritual as well. So there's a lot of heavy demon themes with these guys. Not to the point where they're going to smell like sulfur or anything like that, but it's interesting to me that these guys are kind of in the same conversation as gnolls.
Yeah.
Right? The idea that we've got 2 different demon lords that have given these kind of canine creatures the ability to get some sort of humanoid form and then fuck with the material plane.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I thought they were really interesting. My next question, though, is, are they going to play well with others? No, these guys are their own fucking thing.
Yeah, and completely subservient to Lamia.
I don't think, though, that they're going to be as efficient as, say, a UNT.
Okay. What do you mean?
The UNT spies that were getting in behind the scenes and whatnot to infiltrate and take over societies and whatnot, that's a real issue.
Oh, yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
And you have others as well that are going to do that. Rakshas's doppelgangers.
Well, these guys aren't in the...
They're not doing the politics.
Yeah, they're not doing the politics.
No, they're stealing you out of the back of the tavern.
Yeah.
Right? These guys are low-level kidnappers, the thugs. Right? If
there were white vans...
Exactly. That's exactly it. These guys are the white guys in black vans. That never goes well for anyone unless it's the A-team. My Jackalwere's name is going to be Baracus. So, okay, anyway, last but not least is Brad, who's going to wrap up this conversation by getting into the details of those humanoids from Eberron who traditionally had lycanthropy way back in their genealogy, although it's a little bit obscured now.
We're going to talk about shifters today, an interesting race that comes out of Eberron. Shifters are considered to be bestial in nature, while originally considered to have descended from a mix of lycanthropes and humanoids, they're now actually considered to be their own race set apart with their own evolutionary chain. Now, shifters are said to embody the souls of beasts, or to at least be very closely tied to them. They're generally fairly thin and agile, with large eyes, flattish noses, pointed ears, and covered in this like light furry skin. So most of their body is actually covered in fur. Now they can also fully embrace their bestial nature and do what they call shifting, which pronounces a lot more of these features and also gives them a few extra abilities. So let's dig into the stat block for the shifter monster, and then we'll take a couple of pages from the player creation side of shifters and see if we can pull a little bit more out and make them a little more interesting. So shifters by default as a monster have a challenge rating of 1/2. So they're not especially formidable as a monster type. Their AC is 14. They tend to wear leather armor, which gives them this AC. They have a hit point on average of 19, which is created by rolling 3d8 plus 6. They have a movement speed of 30 feet, just like most other creatures. And they are skilled in acrobatics, insight, nature, and perception. Like pretty much everything in 5th edition, they have dark vision and up to 60 feet, and they have a passive perception of 14. They speak common and no other languages. If you take a look at their stat block, they are just slightly above your average human in strength, a little better in dex, a little better in con than strength as well. So dex and con are pretty close. They're a little more intelligent than your average human. They're quite a bit wiser than your average human, and they're as charismatic as your average human. Now, they have an ability called shifting. So what this is basically they can tap into this primal nature that they have, this spirit that's within them. And as a bonus action, they basically take on this more bestial form. So all their features become a little more pronounced, a little more animalistic. And this shape and form lasts for 1 minute or until it dies. When it shifts, it gains an additional 5 temporary hit points, and it can make a bite attack as a bonus action when it is in this bestial form. So in its normal form, it's able to make shifters are able to make a short sword attack, plus 5 to hit, and they can do 1d6 plus 3 piercing damage, so 6 on average. And when they are in their shifted mode, they can also, as a bonus attack, make a bite attack. It doesn't specifically say multi-attack, but I think it's inferred. So with this bite attack, it's plus 5 to hit, and they'll do 1d4 plus 3 piercing damage, so an average of 5. And again, that shape lasts for a minute. So in and of itself, the stat block for a shifter isn't all that impressive or inviting. That said, there's a lot of flavor with these creatures, right? You can easily imagine a clan or a city full of these shifter creatures, right? These creatures with a tie to the primal side of the earth, right? They're really make interesting druids, make interesting rangers, barbarians even. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Even a cleric. But we get a little bit more flavor as well when we go into the character creation from Eberron. So when you're creating a player character, there are actually 4 different types of beasts that they can tap into, these primal aspects that they can tap into. There's the beast hide, the long tooth, the swift stride, and the wild hunt. And the idea is that one of these they form a bond with at an early age. So beast hide is going to be something stoic, is what it's considered, something big, strong, think tanky, big, brutish animals, something like a boar or a bear. Your long tooth is going to be more like a wolf or a tiger, something like that. More like a were creature, actually. But they're going to have kind of these pack animal tactics. Your swift strides are kind of like your predators that work on the prowl. So you're looking at like panthers or other sorts of cougars, mountain lions, things like that. And they tend to be even like something that's really cunning and works in the shadows. And then the last one is the wild hunt. And these are basically any sort of hunter, something that tracks its prey. More than, right, something that hunts maybe alone, but really focuses on tracking down its prey. So these are the 4 aspects that we can kind of pull from when creating a player character, and I think it'd be really interesting to inject into your NPCs. So we'll do a little bit more of a dive into what these 4 aspects bring to the table. So if you build a character with a beast hide characteristic, it's going to get an ability increase in Constitution by 2 and Strength by 1, and it will also give you proficiency with Athletics. And as a bonus, when you shift as a beast hide, you gain 1d6 additional temporary hit points, and you have +1 to your armor class. So again, it's kind of leaning into that frontline tanky sort of aspect. The long tooth, on the other hand, gets an addition to its strength by 2 and its dexterity by 1 and proficiency in intimidation. When you shift in this form, you get elongated fangs, which allows you to make an unarmored strike as a bonus action. So it basically gives you when you do your unarmored strike as a bonus action, you make a bite attack, allowing you to do 1d6 plus strength damage. So similar to what the monster version got, right? When it shifts, it gets the temporary hit points from the beast hide, and then it gets the bite attack from the long tooth. It kind of mixes these two together. But as a play character, you only get to pick one of these, and you pick it when you pick your race. You're kind of set in this way. So Swift Stride shifters get a bonus to their dexterity by 2 and their charisma by 1, and then you get proficiency with acrobatics. So while you're shifted as a Swift Stride, you get an additional walking speed, and you can move up to 10 feet as a reaction that does not provoke an attack of opportunity. So if somebody within 5 feet of you attacks you, you can make a 10-foot movement without invoking an attack of opportunity. And lastly, the last form is Wild Hunt. So Wild Hunt, if you take on this form, you get an increase to your wisdom of 2 and dexterity by 1. You also get proficiency with survival, and while you're shapeshifted here, you get advantage on all of your wisdom checks, and no creature within 30 feet of you can make an attack roll with advantage against you, unless of course you're incapacitated in some way. Now, as a player character, each of these abilities recharge on a long or short rest, and you get them for 1 minute. So all of these shifting features that I mentioned, they only apply for 1 minute once per long rest. So keep that in mind. Now, we could use some of these to really flesh out our NPCs or our monster characters. Especially if you're going to be using this as, an NPC who's going with the party, I would absolutely give it at least one of these abilities. Well, not more than one. I would give it one of these abilities. Give it the boost to some stats. Give it a couple extra bonuses. A lot of this is kind of encapsulated in the base monster stat, right? When we look at the proficiencies and things like that, that's going to be already baked in. But that said, being able to use this shifting feature really fleshes out the monster stat block. I mean, if you're just going to have a horde of these things at CR1 half, it makes sense to just kind of throw a bunch of them at them. It's going to be a little bit too much to manage, but if they're going to run across one or two of these and bring them along as, a piece of the party, bring them on as an NPC, then in that case, absolutely look into adding, one of these abilities, the Beast Hide, the Long Tooth, the Swift Stride, or the Wild Hunt, and really give them some flavor, help them to really fit into the role that they're going to be taking on, and really flesh them out as a character. Anyways, I hope this information was helpful. I'm going to get back to things here, and I'll send you guys back to Adam and Dan.
Okay, so things are a little confusing about this shifting ability that these guys have. First of all, it recharges after a short or long rest, so they only get it the once per rest.
Yeah.
Okay. Second, when you shift as a bonus action, you get an immediate bite attack as part of the shift.
Yes, but then after that, for the next hour, that bonus action is used for bite.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. It's also important to point out that the bite is not part of the multi-attack. It is a bonus action, so it's going to use up that part of the action economy.
Okay.
Well,
it tracks.
Yeah, but that's really important if you are going to be a player character rogue.
Yeah. Do you have to do the bite as a bonus action?
No, you don't have to. But if you want to use the bite,
it has to be the bonus action.
Yeah, it's not part of the action economy.
Okay. Now that makes me feel like they're really going to use this ability when they need it. They're going to use it very sparingly.
The shifting ability. Yeah, I agree with that. That makes a hell of a lot of sense. They're going to say this for when they need it. I feel like it's a fight or flight response.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to rely on this, even for your average skirmish. It's not until they feel actually threatened.
Which I'm okay with, because you see things like the Dragonborn Breath Weapon, and you see these other kind of big, powerful racial abilities. They're incredibly limited in uses, right? Mm-hmm. Just because you want your class to shine higher than the racial bonuses that you...
And yet we have things like Eladrin.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Or fucking halflings.
That's why I don't like either of those two races.
Do you like the fact that they transition shifters away from lycanthropy in 5th edition in favor of this vague tie-in to a primal spirit?
No!
It says right in Eberron Rising from the Last War, the shifters form a bond with a totemic force that shapes their physical and mental evolution.
That to me is
That's a barbarian, man.
Yeah, and to be completely honest, that is just another way of saying they are willingly self-cursing themselves.
Yeah, I guess I don't like that.
No,
right?
I don't like it either. No.
That's
Just, I mean, you have lycanthropy there. It's already underserved.
now we did say that lycanthropes breed true, right? So if a lycanthrope breeds with a human, they will have lycanthrope offspring.
Yes.
Which means that shifters shouldn't exist by 5th ed rules.
I mean, it depends on how far down the line the ability could get muddied a little bit, but
yeah. Look, honestly, I'm gonna roll a die to see if you get a shifter or a true lycanthrope if you are breeding out of your lycanthropic bloodlines, right? Like,
okay.
I don't know. I really don't like it.
Well, I mean, we have said, I mean, we're coming to the end of our lycanthropy episodes here and our coverage on lycanthropes. And the one thing I got to say, and I said this as we started the first episode of this last week, lycanthropy is over-supported in some ways, but under-supported in the important ways.
It's really not well thought out from a design perspective.
No, it's not. And I feel that we can really have a lot of options. We could really fill this out if we think a little bit more creatively with our current lycanthropy options to make it make a little bit more sense. Like, let's take Jackalwares and Shifters. Do you use these two who aren't really technically lycanthropes to muddy your lycanthropy games, like we mentioned earlier, with using vampires, with werebats, and
yeah, you know what? I'm going to do this when I'm fucking with experienced players. I'm not going to do it with new players.
No, yeah,
even the vampire werebat stuff. When I'm playing with a table full of you, Dan, then I will do this stuff in a Curse of Strahd campaign. I'm going to start playing with this, especially if you've played Curse of Strahd once already. I'm going to really get in there and kind of mix it up just to keep things fresh and interesting. The number of times that you and I have sat at a D&D table and I reach into my bag and I pull out a mini that you have never seen before, and you will halt play and say, "What is this?" You will reach across the table and pick him up, and I'm going to be like, "All right, mental note, he was on that square. Fuck, Dan, what are you doing?" You sit there, look at him, and you flip it upside down to read the bottom of it, which drives me nuts because you're not supposed to know what it is. And about 50% of the time you go, "Oh, it's that." You just haven't run into the 5th ed version of it yet. But the other 50% of the time you go, "What?" And then you put it back down, which is why I would
like to point out I've gotten a lot better at that. Well, I mean, we haven't played in person
it's been really
in a
good
long time.
since
it's been really good for a year and a half, Adam.
But that's honestly one of the reasons why I swapped over to using Pathfinder minis and homebrewing monsters, or giving special unique bits and pieces to these.
However, the first time you dropped the Lamashtu model down,
oh yeah,
I was like, wait a minute. I know who that is. And since we're talking about Jackal, like the jackal-headed goddess of the monsters.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. No, like it's always fun to get that reaction from your longtime players. So I would muddy the water. I'm not going to do it for the new players because that's just going to create confusion at people.
That's fair.
What about you?
100%. I don't care if they're new or old. There is enough knowledge of how lycanthropy works, as long as you have established that there's going to be lycanthropy involved in this section of the campaign arc, whether you do that directly or through some sort of NPC exposition. Once they understand you're dealing with lycanthropy, I will explain, guys, there are many different forms of lycanthropy. Just be on the lookout, and then I will fuck with them with this respect, right? Like I will. It is a dog-shaped lycanthrope. Okay, well, that doesn't really narrow it down as much as you think it does, right? Like a canine lycanthrope, no, a man-bat style creature. Okay, well, that could be anything, right? So yes, I will deliberately fuck with my party with this. I like that. It breathes some depth into a very shallow pool.
All right, okay. So I gotta say, I just did the math while you were talking because I never listened to you. So I was doing the math. Yeah.
Nearly 3 years of this shit. Trust me, I'm aware.
It's not even 2.5. It just feels like 3, Dan. I just did the math. I have done 2/3 of my players that I have DM'd for in the last 4 years have been brand new players within the first 3 months. They don't know what an orc is or a goblin. So I wanted to ask, just as a sidebar here, because we're talking about muddying the waters and fucking with things, okay? Do you, Dan, try to teach people the landscape of D&D by giving them the basic trope monsters? I always try to give you the idea of what a D&D elf is the first time you run into them. So the first time you run into a lycanthrope, I'm going to give you a werewolf because you expect it. And I'm going to give you all the tropes that are normal. So you will get to play that, and then I will start to subvert the tropes.
Honestly, I do embrace the tropes. However, there are exceptions to the rules, and werewolves and lycanthropes are part of that exception in my mind.
Everybody reach out to us on Reddit and let us know, do you cater to the new players by doing tropes, by giving into that, and teaching them what an orc and a halfling is by showing and not telling, right, in your own games before you start to pull the rug out from under people? Or do you just go balls to the wall, here you go, you never know what to expect, stay on your toes?
I mean, on the other hand, like, there are a lot of tables of, like, groups that played together exclusively for 15 plus years, right? No one in that group is a new player, so they would understand the tropes right away. Like, do you lean into the tropes even with experienced players just to give them that burst of normalcy, I guess?
Sometimes, yeah.
Right? Like, if you have been subverting expectations for so long, there is some life to be given in embracing the tropes.
The twist is there is no twist?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, yes, I do. I do that sometimes. But
when your experienced players are sitting there like, okay, there's a twist. I fucking know you. Where's the twist, Adam? I know there's a goddamn twist. And you're like, the twist is nothing. I'm like, bullshit, there's a twist. And you're like,
oh,
no,
yeah,
legit, there isn't one.
I can tell by the look in your face. Your asshole just puckered. There's something coming. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, really quickly, the eyes of the shifters. So there's the beast eye shifter.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. No, not the brown eyes. Never mind. I'm moving on. There's the beast hide, which is inspired by the bear or the boar. So you get either yellow eyes in the dark or none.
Okay.
Long tooth tends to be canine. It does say in some of the lore that it can be large cats too.
Like saber-toothed tigers?
But only some of the lore says that, and there is a feline option next, so I don't know.
Yeah,
okay, fuck it. So canine, any, but probably green. Green is the canine, but any can really be from the cat. Swift stride is the feline one, which of course it can be anything.
Yeah.
Cat's eyes, depending on the breed of house cat, even will be different colors.
Okay.
And then wild hunt, which is just any predator that exists out there, can be obviously any color. But remember, you don't really see purple and blue so much. You will get bluish green, right? So, but it's not really true proper purple or blue. So let's roll one last time, Dan. What is your favorite lycanthrope that we've talked about over the last 2 episodes, and why?
I got an 11.
I got a 19.
Of course you did. Go ahead, Adam. What's your favorite?
I like the Jackalwere.
Really?
Yeah, I absolutely do, because it comes with built-in lore, and it is going to really, really fuck with a party when they run into it for the first time. There's just a pack of jackals, and all of a sudden there's this human standing in front of you, lying through his teeth, and then disappearing back into the jackals again.
Yeah, okay.
The Jackalwere is rarely going to be in hybrid form for me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Honestly, my favorite one is the Weretiger.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Right, and not necessarily just for the Weretiger form itself, but for you know me, I love Rakshasas, and having that.
And you always get so pissed off when I put them in the campaign.
Well, only because you usually make them direct enemies of my player.
Yeah.
Direct enemies of my character.
Yeah, it's because that's what you deserve.
Probably. But anyways, the Weretiger forms that nice yang to the
werewolf,
the Rakshasas yang.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So, like, I love having that dual side of the coin.
It's funny you don't bring tabaxis into it. They're like an afterthought.
I've said the anthropomorphized player races I've always had issues with. Lycanthropes don't fit in this because it's one of those things that pops up every once in a while, but for the most part you're human, I guess. I don't know why. Yeah,
that's a weird distinction that you make, but okay. From the first episode, what was your favorite?
From the first episode, Wereboars.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's a strange distinction.
Yeah.
Why?
Bebop and Rocksteady.
Oh, fuck right off. Fuck right off. I actually like the Werebear. I think it's super flavorful as an NPC that's kind of out in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Kind of for the same reason that you like the Weretiger. Just like, he's over there on the outskirts. You will bump into him, go to him for aid once in a while. He's a constant figure, but he's not going to be with your party.
No.
He's not going to war.
He's not going to help you. No.
No.
He's not going to directly aid you in a combat, but he will give you guidance.
Yes.
Right?
All right, so that's all we have for Lycanthropes in 5th edition, but we got lots of other kind of mobs to cover. Don't forget to come back next week when we begin our conversations on Seamen.
Sahuagin. It's Sahuagin.
It's Sahuagin, and we will argue about this next week.
Oh, God. Anyways.
That's it for this episode of the It's a Mimic podcast. If you'd like to support us, you can head to www.itsamimic.com and hit our fancy donate button, or tell your friends and the rest of your D&D party about the podcast. We're available on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, as well as most podcast apps. And guys, stay safe out there.
Thank you for listening to another It's a Mimic production. Inquiries, shoutouts, requests, and mailbag questions can be sent to info@itsamimic.com.
Hey guys. As you know, lycanthropy can be passed along in 3 different ways, either through a specific curse, through the bite of someone infected, or passed down through a hereditary bloodline. Which of these transmission vectors do you think is most interesting, and why?
I don't know, do you want to roll for it?
Yeah, sure. A 5.
An 11. I want the Hag curse. We talked about it in the first episode. That's the right one for me.
It being transmitted through a scrape feels cheap and zombie to me. Through a bite, I like the curse that is transmitted through a bite, but it's still a curse. It's not a plague. It's not genetic. It's not microscopic. It is a curse. It is a magical curse.
That's the thing that always frustrated the shit out of me is, like, they got the curse from somewhere, and every time that you get a werewolf move with them, they kill the werewolf, and then whoever bit them also died for some reason. But you never figured out who bit that guy. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, they never trace it back to the origin. That's why I like the Hag.
Yeah.
Right? So that you are going through a series of lycanthrope monsters and creatures and whatnot. Some may be helpful, some may not be.
I'd say you even like run into the Hag, who does like occasionally help you, and then eventually your party finds out that they're the ones who initially started all this.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun to be had there.
Yeah.
So I'm all about the curse. I don't like the viral aspect at all.
Neither do I.
Which is not even in D&D, but it is a common trope.
It is, yeah.
As a kid, I grew up watching... Let's try that again.
That's for you, Dan.
Thank you for listening to an It's a Mimic production.
Okay, you're done. Get it.